Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope our holidays were enjoyable. I wish we were starting the first of the year under more pleasant circumstances, but Mr. COVID continues to bedevil us. The board decided about a week ago that it would be prudent to meet on Zoom, at least for now. I guess we're hopeful that we can resume in-person meeting in February, but I guess it'll be a last minute decision. So be on the lookout for the agenda when it comes out and we'll let you know. I think we decided, Betsy, I think Thursday or Friday to do this, and we'll probably do the same. If you haven't been following, I know the case rate in Sacramento County has gone up significantly in the last 3 or 4 weeks. The county updates their dashboard on Tuesdays and sometimes on Thursdays, so we're going to be watching that pretty closely. I also see that the governor extended the mask mandate until February 15th. He did that today. That doesn't really change anything in Sacramento County because we've been under one from the beginning. So bear with us. We will hopefully get all through this and things will get better. I wanted to let you know that the board has chosen to require its members to be vaccinated unless they can provide a negative test result within 48 hours of a meeting. So I wanted to let you know the board has made that decision. We did that in executive session. Tonight we have a couple of items that will probably take a little bit of time. In particular, one regarding safety. And if you've had a chance to look at the agenda, there's a laundry list of things that we want to discuss. And would like to get some feedback from those of you who are on the call. Hopefully we're going to be making some assignments to some of the committees to see if we can come up with some different approaches to a few things. We also have a item from the grounds committee, to explore in zone 7 at least some limited shrub removal in the driveways to see how that would work in terms of reducing maintenance costs. We will be asking, assuming that is approved by the board, with asking the contractor to give us a cost estimate. And then lastly, as we have in all of our meetings, I want to remind you that there are 3 opportunities for everyone to speak. We have 2 homeowner forums, one in the beginning of the meeting and one at the end. And then if you wish to speak on any of the agenda items, please let Betsy know either by chat or do the Zoom hand raise. We'll call on you. I just ask you that you will be limited to 3 minutes so we can keep things moving and be courteous and concise. And hopefully everyone will have the opportunity to speak if they wish to. So that's the end of the president's message. Again, welcome. Betsy, would you like to continue at least discussing the executive session acknowledgement?
Betsy's muted. Oh, there we go.
I think we could. The board approved a foreclosure resolution. Those are acted upon in executive session to protect homeowner privacy. And you also reviewed and approved a cost of living increase for staff between 3% and 6%. So that would be, I think that's everything from the link, and you approved minutes from the previous executive sessions.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we are now to the committee updates. I will just take this in order on the agenda. The first one is the Ad hoc Committee for Campus Commons Playground Fundraising. Do we have someone from that committee here?
don't know if Cheryl Nelson is here, but she has provided a report. I am trying to bring up the board packet and I just have, it seems like I have a lot of things open. I apologize. Let me try that again. Okay, here we go. Okay, committee reports. Here we go. So that is probably a little too little to read. The first one is from the Ad hoc Playground Committee. Let me just make that a little bigger. Okay. Okay, so On Hartnell is a children's playground used by children from throughout the Nepenthe Campus Commons community. As a community asset, it is important that the playground meets safety and use needs. Future residents appreciate well-kept recreational assets. Recently, the village HOAs made a special homeowners assessment to upgrade the clubhouse facilities and the playground. As the playground is used by Nepenthe families and they are not subject to the assessment, it seems reasonable to look for ways for Nepenthe families to assist in the upgrade. The ad hoc committee is still in the process of developing plans and strategies to do that. It is expected that an outline of possibilities will be available in January of 2022. So she submitted this in December, and I don't think she's had a chance to put anything together yet for this meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any comments from the directors? Anyone in the audience care to comment? Okay, let's move on. The Architects Review Committee, I think Ken and Alan are both here. Who would like to report?
Oh, let me.
This is Alan. I unmuted myself. Sometimes Ken has trouble getting himself.
I'm on
There you are,
also,
Ken.
Alan.
There he is.
Oh, good. Perhaps Ken wants
Okay.
to speak.
Okay, Ken, you have the floor.
Okay, we can see the first item on our minutes, B.1, requests that were not voted on. Elementary Circle, retractable awning, and we have since, I think, approved that one, haven't we, Alan?
No, we have not.
Okay.
That one's incomplete still.
And the 2014 Dunbarton Circle windows replacement on that one, we didn't vote on those at the meeting either.
Yeah. Yeah, that has also since been approved. So of course, you know, the board did not meet in December. So these November minutes are little out of date, but we also have the November and December minutes in the packet.
Right.
So.
Singer, Betsy, maybe you could actually show, you had a nice summary in the beginning of the minutes, or rather of the agenda that
Yeah.
summarized a lot of the actions.
Yeah.
That would be easier for Ken to go through rather than individual ones.
Did I have that in the
Yeah, just
agenda?
scroll up to higher in your agenda, the board agenda.
Okay. Okay.
Like page, I don't have it. Hang on.
Let me see what page it is.
Keep going.
Page 3.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's see. I can see we have the committee updates, and yeah, I think we just have the minutes, or we'll provide verbal reports for board review. So I guess the question is there anything that's in the minutes for Architectural Review Committee that needs to be highlighted?
There is a denial here that I think I went to the clubhouse and looked at the plans, and personally, I feel like we should approve it. Is this the time where I would say something about that?
It's actually a business item towards the end of the agenda. So John, do you want to wait until we get to that
Okay.
item on the
All
agenda?
right, let's do that
Yes.
then.
I do-
Yes.
yes, I
Okay,
do.
sorry, yeah, I think, okay.
Okay. Should we?
Ken, Alan, anything more at the moment?
No, I have nothing more to add, President Baker.
Okay. Ken?
No,
Okay, thank you. All right. Finance Committee, anyone here from Finance Committee?
Yeah. Finance did not meet this month. I believe we're trying to set up a meeting regarding the solar heating for the primary pool, but to my knowledge, that date has not been set.
Correct.
Mary Gray?
Will, the meeting with Tesla is actually solar panels to power the clubhouse electrical, not the pool.
Right,
The
which is gas.
clubhouse itself,
Yes.
That's correct.
okay, well, that was misunderstanding on my part.
I did the same thing.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I probably should have been clearer when.
That's okay.
yeah.
But, I think it's really interesting. I said something to Mary about it, and I'm hoping whoever the rep is can maybe put together like a little presentation or a homeowner forum, because I think there's lots of us like me that are interested in doing solar. I just, I don't want to call one of those ads. I'm just a little bit nervous about it all, but anyway, I think it's great.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I do have, I know the committee is also interested in pursuing replacing the T111 with Smart Side. And I did receive a confirmation from Bob Browning that he can be at the January meeting. So that's good.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Will,
Okay, so
anything?
he's gonna be at the January meeting.
he is.
All right. While we're looking at solar, I mean, I realize that we have a substantial investment in gas heat for the pool, but it seems to, and I'm really out of my field of expertise here, but it seems to me that pool heating, in a sense, is a natural for solar simply because you use it during those periods of time when solar is most available. And it's unused during those periods of time when solar is the least reliable. So I don't know if there's a long-term conversion possibility there or not, but that's probably another question we should address.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Will,
Can I add, is there going to be someone, Betsy and I talked about this, a contractor, somebody who can address at the Smart Side compatibility. So if we only did one side of a house with Smart Side and the rest, so that we had that information. Betsy, do you think there's someone who could?
Yeah, we can invite either Bill Schuman from Critical Path Reconstruction or Billy Williams from JWS. JWS probably has the most experience with our siting to attend that meeting as well if the committee's interested in hearing from them, which I think would be a good idea. Will, do you like that idea?
That's fine. They've done, I know they've done Smart Side.
Yeah,
They've got experience with it. And of course, we've got experience with it on the clubhouse.
yeah,
But we know what is incompatible side by side. So it would be a matter of doing entire elevations, and then it's just a matter of the corner molding. I mean, if you look at the two from a distance, we've got a test case over on University. And you look at it too from a distance, it's pretty hard to tell them apart. But if you lay them side by side, because of the depth of one versus the other, it doesn't work.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks for arranging that, Betsy. That would be helpful. Will, any more?
No, those were the two pressing issues. And, Betsy clarified or I guess Mary clarified the one and Betsy the other. So
Okay,
as soon as we get a date set for that meeting, we'll pursue the question of solar. I think we're going to need some expertise beyond just the finance committee because I'm not sure anybody in the finance committee has expertise in solar, and there are always unforeseen pitfalls that you simply don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be a lot to take in, I guess.
Is this something the ARC should be involved in too?
Yeah.
oh, absolutely.
I don't think they need to be, but I think it's mostly a cost issue. If it's going to pay off.
Well, I think the ARC at least need to be aware of what's going on, and if they have any significant concerns, we should hear about it. I'm with Will. I've seen the test case over in university, and it is really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah,
Okay.
are we talking about solar or
yeah.
siding now?
Siding.
I was talking about solar.
No, I'm
Oh, okay.
talking about solar because usually if a homeowner requests to have a solar system installed, I do believe ARC is usually involved. So I would hope they will get involved too for for maybe a meeting with Tesla.
Okay, let me just clarify. I did the initial research on the Tesla solar panels and talked to the company. And so I think probably to answer your question, Marcus, what we wanted to do was number one, is it cost effective? So go there first. Does it make sense to even do it? And if it does with the finance committee, I think then step two was, then it would, because it's on our roofs and we maintain the roofs, and the ARC would engage. I don't know if does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good clarification, Mary. Thank you. Will?
John, there are two homeowners who have hands raised, Leslie Arnall and Pat Singer. I don't know if you want to call on them at this time or, okay. You want to start with Leslie?
Okay, I assume this is with regard to the finance committee. Leslie?
A question about the siding. I would be curious if they're close enough in appearance that you could actually contemplate replacing the siding on the vulnerable sides of the buildings, such as the south and the west. And maybe so that you phase the whole thing in over a long period of time. I guess that's my question.
That's the question that's being examined. That's exactly what's being examined. What percentage of siding would have to be replaced to make it practical?
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
no way, we can't do 100%. We just don't have the capital.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Pat?
I'm making a comment on the part of the ARC as a member of it. I would suggest that our committee gets involved as you're approaching the end of your decision-making process, because we have to understand how we will live with the decision moving forward. I cannot speak though if Ken or Leon are two folks with engineering background, if they have any experience on solar. If they do, then I would suggest you tap them as individuals.
Good point. Oh, we have more hands raised. Bill White would also like to be recognized by the chair.
Bill?
I would just suggest, in addition to Tesla, look into Simpler Solaris and don't rent or don't lease if we're going to do solar. Buy it. The leases only make money for the leasing companies. They don't make anything for the people who the houses that have it. If you talk to some of the people around here, they're actually paying more money to the SMUD and to the leasing company than they would if they didn't have it on their roofs. So don't just go with Tesla, get a couple of solar companies to come in here and give us estimates.
Okay. Any other hands up? No. Okay. Will, you're muted, I'm guessing not. Okay,
Hi.
let's move on to the grounds committee. Steve Huffman, are you?
I'm here. Yes.
Oh. Could we have your report, please?
Really, I'm on the agenda, or our committee is on the agenda later, but I did want to highlight one thing from our minutes, and that was the acknowledgement of the service of Diane Luttrell,
Yes.
who had been on our committee for 18 years.
Wow.
And you know,
Wow.
when I was a director, it was very apparent to me that we were dependent on the expertise and the institutional memory of longtime committee members. So I just want to mention her longtime service and very valuable service to our community.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Hey,
Steve.
this is Ken Luttrell. I just thank you very much. I appreciate that. She's not listening, but I'll pass it on to her.
Do we need to go back to D on page 5 about the security camera approvals?
What?
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay. Well, we kind of skipped.
There yet.
No.
Did
Oh,
we?
yeah, we're not even there. Sorry, you guys.
Committee reports.
Yeah, we're still on committee reports.
Okay, I'm going back and forth between the reports and minutes and, okay.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything else besides the agenda item that you have later?
Nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Is
is
there
there an
anyone
offer?
here? Is there anyone here from the insurance committee?
Wait, before we move on, is there an opportunity for me to make a few comments about the minutes from landscaping grounds?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Or, I mean, I could probably, it sort of ties into the shrub thing, so maybe I don't agree with the whole trading zones concept that is in here. I feel like it's better to have boots on the ground, you know, people that are walking their dog every day. I know there's been a little bit of controversy in this area. And so that's something, if there is someone that is on the committee that lives in that zone, I mean, I hope if we have multiple members in that zone, I hope that they're all, you know, even if they're not serving as a zone chair, zone steward, you know, I don't agree with that. I want the stewards to live there personally.
Ashley, can I ask you to bring that up when this item comes up as an agenda item? Bring that up
Okay,
again.
sorry.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to keep moving here.
Okay.
Steve, no more?
That's it.
Okay. Insurance committee. Anyone here from insurance?
Nancy's here.
Hi, Nancy. Do you have a report?
You might need to unmute yourself, Nancy. Uh-oh, where'd she go?
I don't know, because I don't.
Here she is. So I'm going to ask her to
I did, it did work, it worked this time. Okay, so you've allowed me to unmute. Basically, I just wanted to go over, I see some things that you're going to talk about later about our committee, but I think you already know that Peter Pelkoffer has been doing a great job of looking into the lighting situation, and he certainly was on our agenda at our last meeting. I guess I was told to put him on our agenda. He's been on our agenda and he will continue to be on our agenda, and we are very happy with all the work that he's doing on this. And we also, as a committee, we decided that this was the year that we should be looking into the security companies. And I see that that's something else that you were, you know, thinking for us. So I think that we're all on the same page, and I think that you have our minutes here, and the board approved that incident where Betty can give us the reports on incidents that have occurred. And as she said last time, that she's only received 5, I think less than 5 reports anyway. So that's
that's a whole other discussion issue, but we're moving along and we'll take some of these other things that you've got later on the agenda to talk about.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Nancy. There's going to be probably a laundry list of things for your committee, most of which we are aware of. So I don't think there's any surprises. Anything else, Nancy?
No, that's it.
All right,
I'll
thank you.
probably be saying something later.
Okay, all right. Outreach Committee? Anyone from Outreach?
I think John Donovan is here. I don't think Emily's here.
Emily wasn't available, so I think John's covering it.
Okay, John, if you're able to unmute, please do so.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no, we didn't meet actually in December. I don't think there's anything beyond the minutes that were submitted.
Okay, all right. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Okay, we are through committee reports. Betsy, do you have a management report?
I do. I don't have a lot on it. Let me bring up my report here on screen. Is this sharing? Let's see, here we go. Okay. So nothing too major. I did want to highlight that I was able to walk the Howe Avenue berm with Kevin Hockner, the city arborist. He confirmed that everything that is in the right of way as designated on the subdivision map is all of those trees are being rolled into the city's tree inventory. He initially said that they are on a 6-year rotation. It takes that long to go through all of the trees that they are required to prune. But then we contacted, we asked him about the cleanup on Howe Avenue. He said, oh, no problem. You can call the street sweeper. We called the street sweeper, and the supervisor then got back in touch with me and said, we can't clean Howe Avenue because of the tree branches sticking out into the road. So fortunately, Kevin was really responsive. I shared that with him, and he has now confirmed that he's going to expedite pruning so that the street sweepers can get on that. So that is all
excellent. Okay.
super positive, good news. I will email this report to you. I know that you don't have it in your possession, so I will get it over to you. There's only one other thing I thought was kind of worthy of some time at this meeting, because I know you have a really full agenda. I did want to note that there have been some recent legislation changes regarding debt collection. And so that may require changes to our current delinquency policy for service residential. They have attorneys looking at this right now, and they will be preparing recommendations for the board probably at our February meeting. So
okay.
That is it. Any questions from the directors for me?
No, but I do want to thank you for getting together with the city about Howe Avenue. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm glad they were able to, step up and do what they needed to do. So
Betsy, can you tell me briefly, there's no sidewalk along there.
Mm-hmm.
How far back from the back of the curb and gutter is the property line?
It varies. So where it is at Howe Avenue and American River Drive, I want to say it's 15 feet, but then it widens as you get closer to the overpass. And so down near that area, it's almost like 40 feet. So it's a pretty considerable amount. I will say that, we still have a number of trees there that are our responsibility, and they definitely need some attention. So my next step is to go back to Paul Dubois and say, here's where we are. Let's look at the trees that are still ours and create a new proposal based on their needs, because I know that there are some things that are needed to happen on our side of that line.
Is there some way you could provide us a map showing that right of way?
I will do that. Let me make a note. Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I also, hopefully that map will clearly delineate which trees are ours. Would that happen, Betsy?
Yeah, it should. I mean, it won't list each tree individually, because as we learned when we walked it, there's, I mean, some of the trees, half of the trunk is in their right of way, half of it is on our private property. And I can say too that their interest is solely in protecting drivers on Howe Avenue. That is where their interest lies. So they're not going to prune for aesthetics. They're not going to prune necessarily for the health of the tree. They really are just interested in making sure that drivers are safe, but at least it will clear it so that the street sweeper can get in there and do his job and raise the canopy so that it's safe for drivers. And so, I mean, I do consider that a win for us, but.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Betsy. Yeah, sometime if you can pull that map together, I think it would be helpful
Yeah.
for all of us to look at. You know, we have a agenda item on the safety,
Yeah,
which relates to that. So I think that would be helpful. Okay.
I will do that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anything else, Betsy?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. So we've come to the first homeowner forum. So again, if you want to speak, raise your hand or let Betsy know. You'll have 3 minutes, and please be courteous and concise.
Mhm.
Well, you just had that.
I
And
see.
if you are raising, yeah, tell me, John, because I can't see.
Yeah,
it.
I see Carol has raised her hand. Carol, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Hello, thanks, John.
Hi.
I'm just wondering if it's possible to know what the address is on University for the siding so that perhaps we could take a look as homeowners.
Yeah, it escapes me right now. I have it in my files. I have photographs and everything. So I think I'll go ahead and, since this is something the Finance Committee is going to take up, I'll be happy to put this information with the address in the newsletter Friday when I publish.
Thank you.
That's a good question, Carol. I had to ask Betsy where it was too,
Yeah.
but it was pretty easy to find once I had the address.
It's the alley right before 1525. But it's the closest, the building is closest to the levee.
Yeah, and closest to guest parking on the backside.
Yeah, yes.
It'd probably be better if I just give you the address in the newsletter.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Bill White, you have your hand raised?
I got a letter from the fire insurance company saying that our flood insurance had been canceled as effective, I think, December 14th. And I was hoping, does that mean that we're finally getting rid of this worthless fire insurance, or, I mean, not fire insurance, flood insurance? Because every one of us on this Zoom call will be dead before that river ever floods. Or did we renew and we just got this letter in the back?
Well, let me just say this about that. We all got that letter. We have renewed the insurance. And frankly, it is not worthless.
It is worthless.
Well, we can debate that at a different time, Bill.
We're subsidizing the people that live in in the Carolinas that get flooded with hurricanes. Our insurance money is going to rebuild their homes. We will never use it here in the Nepenthe.
You and I should talk about that, Bill. I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
We raised the dam 20 feet. We have 200-year flood protection on the levees, and it's never going to flood here. And we're in this is $600 a year that we're spending to take care of people that live in the Carolinas.
Well,
and some insurance company 3 years or 20 years ago or 15 years ago sold a bill of goods to this place. He came in to sell trombones, but he ended up selling us flood insurance. But anyway, we can talk later, but it's worthless.
All right. Bill, I would be glad to speak with you on this.
All right.
All right. Pat Singer, you have your hand raised?
Yes. Could you please consider notifying that person who has that sighting on University that you're publishing their address? Because they may be getting a lot of neighbors walking past and it may be unsettling if they're not aware of what you're doing. So
That's a
just
good
a comment there.
Yeah, she does know she is the test site, but I will give her a heads up that she's also going to be published in the newsletter.
That's a great idea, Pat. Anyone else have their hand raised? I'm not seeing anyone on the chat. One more call for comments on the homeowners forum, and then we're going to move on. Okay, thank you. Betsy, I see homeowner correspondence on the agenda, but I think you told me we really didn't have any. Is that true?
No, there were some letters received regarding an agenda item that is later, so I put the correspondence in that agenda item. So you will see
Okay.
that.
All right, thank you. Okay, all right. Okay, we've now moving on to the consent calendar.
I move that we approve the items A to D in the consent calendar.
I would just like to point out that Betsy, there's an error in the minutes from the last meeting. The last architectural approval, the very last one, you list Director Greg Beal as seconding the.
Oh my gosh.
That shows it that I read these.
Yes, it does.
Well, and actually I signed them, John, so it's two of us that missed it.
Okay. Other than that, I will second the approval of the consent calendar.
Wow.
Any objection from the board members?
No.
Okay, without objection, that's approved.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Don't be embarrassed, Betsy. It happens to us all.
Whew. All right, where are we at now? To unfinished business, which there is none.
So we're going to new business.
New business.
Let me start this discussion and would like input if folks would like input. You know, I think this board made it quite clear when we took office in June that safety was going to be a high priority. And in particular, our insurance committee has really taken that to heart, as has the grounds committee. And honestly, the finance committee has weighed on this as well. And I think it's time, given that we've had some incidents recently, and I'd be curious, Betsy, if we've heard back from the police department, but hold on for a second, that we evaluate where we are and what more we can do. The board met in executive session with our attorney to find out what we can do, what we can't do, what our responsibilities are. And the list that we see before us here on the agenda relates to that. I don't know whether everyone on call has had a chance to look at that, and I don't want to spend everyone's time reading it, but I would like to go through it briefly, unless the directors feel differently. I would like to go through this briefly, get comments from the directors, and then please, those of you in attendance, please weigh in as well if you feel you need to. Is everybody okay with that approach? Okay, so the advice we got from our council was that we should publish resources for personal security via the newsletter and handouts. And we're going to actually come to that here a little bit later. This is, the police will tell you, and I've spoken to them about a break-in near my home, that we as owners are our first line of defense. There's only so much that the police department, the security patrol can do we really need to up our game if we haven't. We will be working with the ARC to research expanded lighting and security camera options. I know the insurance committee will be addressing that as well. We plan to strengthen our security in our amenities. We had some issues last summer with some folks getting into the main pool and even the Dunbarton pool. So there's some things we can do there. I think it would be advisable for us to solicit advice for community safety consultants, and I think we're planning on doing that. We need to maintain the common area landscaping in a neat and tidy manner so that we're not creating hiding places. And then getting down here to empowering the insurance company. Betsy, can you scroll down a little bit?
Yeah.
Thank you. So Nancy, I know you're on, and here's a list of things that we would like your committee to research. And if you have things you'd like to add to this, please let us know. So I know you've been looking at additional and/or improved lighting in the common areas. And I think you guys have a meeting next week, don't you, Nancy?
Yes, we do. Mhm.
Okay. I'm hoping to attend that just to see how you're doing. One of the things that has come up in discussion from some owners is installing cameras on the main intersections in the community. I know the villages are considering that. I think that's open to debate about how effective that might be, but it's worth looking into. It's come up several times about the perimeter fencing along Howe Avenue, which is what Village 4 is doing. This is one reason I asked Betsy for the right-of-way map along the Howe Avenue berm, because the right-of-way delineation in Village 4 is significantly different than ours, which raises some legal issues. And then, of course, certainly looking at expanding patrol service. I know our liaison to the ILC, Ashley, has actually looked at perhaps cooperating with the village's security service. And I think that needs to be evaluated further. I'd like to stop there for a moment and ask the directors if there is anything you'd like to add to this assignment for the insurance committee. And then I would like to move on before we ask for homeowner input. Any directors have things to add?
I have something.
Oh.
I would like the input from as many people from the community as possible, what their thoughts are, what their priorities are regarding safety, what they think. We hear usually just from always a few people only, and I would like to hear from as many people as possible.
I just want to say a few things of what I've been doing. And first off, I agree with Marcus there, and I'm completely open-minded. I think what we're doing right now is barely okay. And, you know, Securitas comes by at certain times, you know, basically 4 times a day. And we're spending $600 to the parking boss. But what if we could take that money and spend it better? Maybe that would be that we contribute to, you know, cooperating with the villages. I did meet with David Lane. It took a lot of work for me to get in contact with them, with Campus Commons Corp or whatever they're called. But David Lane, he's an attorney for hire for smaller cities. So he knows a lot about these different issues. And also Doug Kelly, whom I served with on Village 10. So they're spending about $4,573 a month on security. And it can be anywhere between $3,500 and $5,700. They don't get much in reports, but they're typically there. It depends on, they're more often there in the dark, when it's darker, you know, seasonally. So more in the winter. They do own the truck, but they seem very much wanting to work with us, exploring the cameras. They don't have a real set idea either of what the solution might be, but I'm just very happy that we have, if 590 of us and about 500 or 600 of them can come together, I'm hoping that we can find some cost-effective solutions that might be a little bit better what we're doing.
John, this is Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
I want to say that I have made note of, I saw this before, of all the things that you suggested that the ILS committee look at. And those will certainly be on our agenda next week. So I'm glad that you're going to be there. And I think the security company thing is something that really needs to be looked into, because, there's questions about there's no visibility of any of them. And I think that, people need to know that there are people out there watching, and I'm not talking about homeowners right now. I'm talking about people that are, planning on breaking into a house or whatever. But that's something that we'll be discussing at our committee meeting, and then be bringing back some suggestions at the next meeting in February. I think there's a lot of things for the committee to address, and we will do that. So it'll be good to have you there.
Just
Great.
to add on to what I said too, because I left out, it's just that Park Corp has this broad range of hours where we have only those 4 visits a day.
You're breaking up.
Oh, am I breaking up?
You're fine.
But anyway, give us.
Don't know what you said.
I can hear, everyone hears me. You were breaking up, Nancy. So I think it's your internet. Anyhow, it would give us the opportunity, like, for example, someone's at our pool, someone sees someone in the middle, there has to be maybe some guidance on when we could call, but it could give us perhaps really, much better coverage to address some of these safety issues. And I'm very personally aware of what's going on at the corner of Howe and Fair Oaks. I am worried, what if we become a camping site or a thoroughfare? I mean, we have to be on top of this. I don't know if it's going to be us as an HOA or us personally, or what the solutions are. I'm completely open-minded, but I do feel like we, as a board member, I really want to address what the options might look like and see what kind of support or what the homeowners want.
Thank you, Ashley.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Can I go ahead or not?
Yeah, I just want to, Betsy, you had invited someone from the councilman's office and the police department. I don't want to make them stay on here forever.
Right, yeah.
Have they logged on or not?
Yes. Gilbert Lara is here, and he is from Councilmember Guerra's office. Gilbert, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself to our homeowners and our board?
Yes, hi. Happy New Year's, everyone. Yeah, my name is Gilbert Lara from the office of Councilmember Eric Guerra, filling in for Cassandra, who was here last month in December and participated with the police department as well.
Is there anything that you can add to this discussion for us, about, because we had the safety forum, are there any?
Yeah, I do have experience with a little bit of the business corridors that are also dealing with, encampments, unhoused individuals, RV parking and things like that. And I think one thing I could extract from that and maybe recommend here is perhaps having like a neighborhood flyer with easy resources to provide for neighbors, just in case they don't know who to reach out or contact to. For example, 311, non-emergency numbers, whether it's utilities or street closures or lighting, like you mentioned earlier right now. So maybe like a quick flyer or like a quick resource flyer that everyone can be passed out to or distributed to. I think that's a really great option or recommendation that I could think of right now.
Thank you.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now,
Gilbert,
I think, I'm sorry.
Can I just expand before? I want to support and expand on what both Marcus and Ashley said.
Sure.
I think that we do need to hear from, as many of our homeowners as possible. I would like to suggest if we have the ability, I don't know if we do, to do some kind of survey, either mail, computer, email, or something to try and expand how we connect, so that we can make that contact that Marcus has suggested. And then building on what Ashley was saying, it's hard to know what will work and what won't work until you try it. And so instead of going full bore into something that could be costly or ineffective, perhaps like with the lighting, I know that there's, we could have pilot areas where we brighten the light in an alleyway instead of doing it all over the whole neighborhood, and evaluate. So those are just two expansions on those ideas.
And then also, you know, I'll let other people talk here in a second, but I have, you know, it's basically on the community, the neighborhood watch. As an HOA, we board members, we can't really coordinate that. It has to be other people, but that's something, I mean, it's on the list there, but that's knowing your neighbors, knowing how to contact them. That's going to be very important. And just being, when I did talk to them, they have different methods of communicating on Nextdoor and private Facebook groups, ways they can teach us to keep it closed, because there's been a lot of chatter on Nextdoor, although it's good to know what's going on, people broadcast things to everyone. I mean, it's almost hurting us the way some of these items are going out in a very negative or misinformed way, and it could potentially, you know, keep someone from buying your house. I mean, we have to think of our property values, and if we put ourselves out there as this, you know, this horrible do nothing board with the security, you know, just the way you might feel that, but it's so important to come to these meetings and voice your opinions and do what you can do as a personal homeowner. And
I'm very glad you brought that up, Ashley, because that's so true. That neighbors thing is getting a little out of control.
it is. I mean, there's people on East Sac saying, I would never live there. You're bored. You know, they never do. I mean, that's not true of me. I mean, I hope you hear me today, hear Marcus, hear all of us, and none of us are in this camp like where we don't care about this and that we're just letting all this happen. I mean, we had a safety forum, you know, the criticism, it's not a solution that I can do something about overnight. I wish it were, but it's not that way. And I'm not going to make, you know, all these drastic changes without including people's opinions.
Right.
So
let me suggest, Betsy, let me suggest this. And Ashley, you're absolutely right. And Marcus, I agree that we need to get as much input as possible. Nancy, at next week's insurance committee meeting, Betsy, will you be there?
I can be there. Sure. Yeah.
I'd like you to be there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how to get as much input as possible, whether it's a survey or some way. Let's figure out the mechanics of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't solve that tonight, but we can do it next week.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate what Ashley was saying about Nextdoor too. I think it can be a tremendous resource. I think, you know, it's good for people to be thoughtful too and try to be constructive. I really wanted to ask Gilbert, I believe that you mentioned that a police officer might be in attendance tonight, but I'm not sure if they are.
I did not check in with PD before I logged on to the meeting.
Okay.
We did check in with them to see if they would participate in this meeting today.
Okay.
But if the officer is not here yet, I can't speak for them, so I guess they're not here.
Okay, and can you speak to, is it normal to see like a little spike in crime around the holidays? And do you know, if they're facing that right now or have been, and if it's slowing down, or what's happening with that kind of?
Yeah, I live in Elmhurst, and the police officer that patrols my area also patrols yours. And he's seen a lot of spikes in package theft, break-ins, catalytic converters, and just overall burglaries in general. It is because of the holidays. I can't speak because I'm not a police officer, but from what I have heard from the police department and their check-ins with other neighborhood associations, that is the main reason why during the holidays.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Gilbert. That's great input. Thank you. We've got some hands raised. Lynn Goldsmith, your hand is raised and you haven't a chance to speak yet. So can I call on you?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Thank you very much.
Hi.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for turning on your camera.
Oh, yeah. I figured it'd be better. Betsy, you weren't able to send out my memo, huh?
I have it right here. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Generally, we like for, any kind of correspondence like this to come a week before the board meeting.
Oh, I know, I'm
so I
sure.
got this.
I'm
Yeah.
sure I didn't do it fast enough. You're right.
That's
But I
okay.
didn't think any decisions would be made tonight anyway. I just want to very briefly, since I only have 3 minutes, I heard, I just want to very briefly, most of you have mentioned just about everything on my list, which I was so happy to hear. I have a problem too with some of these media outlets, and I don't partake in them. But anyway, one of the things that has not been discussed yet, I noticed, was Commons is used as a cut through from Fair Oaks to Howe and vice versa to avoid the signals on Howe. And I think it would be very beneficial for our community to at least get some speed bumps in there, along that corridor. And we'd have to coordinate with the other homeowners associations and everything to make this really effective. But that is something we can actually do that I think could get results, because it's so easy for people to go through and scope our neighborhood. But I live on Swarthmore, and Swarthmore has been hit hard, I think. I know of at least 4. So anyway, I'd like to also see a reduction in the speeding. So I do lots of walking, as I know a bunch of you do too. And it's really, really disconcerting to see people speeding by us when we're walking. So anyway, that's another thing, if we can slow down the streets a little bit.
Yeah.
Now the encourage residents, you talked about that too. And boy, do we need this. We need to know each other. We don't know each other. And so we're going to work. There's a few of us on our street that are going to work on that. But frequently check the alleys. I think that's really important, because they're a hidden place and people can hide real easily. And I've talked about lighting already, so I don't need to mention that again. All of us are concerned about the lighting. And then I did mention in this letter too, increasing again the wattage on the bulb lights. I know we did that to reduce energy consumption, but we need better lighting, and those bulb lights don't work very well.
Okay.
So anyway, that's the highlights of what I was gonna mention. I'm glad to see all of you are thinking the same way.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Great comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 5 more folks. I'm trying to pick those who haven't had as much chance to speak. Leslie, you've had 1 chance. The others have had several, so you're up.
I would like to assign, forgive me, Nancy, to the ILS committee, drafting some kind of flyer that would be available to either new residents or currently existing residents about what they personally can do to protect their own safety. That kind of thing would be handed out to residents at the event that we had at the pool, et cetera, et cetera. We already had that.
We've been talking about it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you asked John if anything should be added to the list. for the ILS committee, and I think that is one, and I would include.
We have quite
Yeah.
a list here because we have the committee has a list and then all of John's list. And so I think that you'll be happy when you see what we've been doing in committee.
Okay, great. I'll be quiet.
Thank you, Leslie. Carol Duke, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I do. Thank you, John. I just want to suggest that when looking at lighting, we look at lighting the areas that are appropriate for security purposes. So that would be down on the ground and on the fences and walkways and alleys, not upward into the second story windows. I know that the villages have some lighting in their areas that have a cap or a hat on them. So the lighting does not go up, it goes down, and that's where we need it down. So if we just increase the amount of light that's coming out of those bulbs, it's going to increase it up into the windows as well. So my thought.
Good point. Okay. Let's see. Bill White.
Well, my dog is barking at an intruder coming in right now, but two quick things.
It's not your dog's turn. It's your turn.
What Village 4 is doing with a fence makes sense because they have sidewalk. I think it would be a waste of our money to put a fence along Howe Avenue because there is no sidewalk, so you don't have people walking. Where you have people walking in our area is along University and coming from the river over into our place. So if you're going to do anything, you need to take care of it there. As far as speeding goes, I've been working with the city now for 2 months trying to get speed bumps on University because it's a freeway. I walk my dog along University and cars come by at 70, 80 miles an hour zipping along there. And the city has told me that they'll put the speed bumps in after the river floods. And to hold my breath, they said I could maybe contact the police department and have them come put one of those signs up that tell you how fast you're going. But they said we're so far down the list on getting speed bumps. So if anybody else thinks they're going to get speed bumps put anywhere else in Nepenthe, they're smoking dope. The letter that Betsy put out about what we can do to protect ourselves is the only thing that's going to happen around here. The security people can't protect us. They're not here 24/7 unless we have one stationed in front of every house. It's never going to protect us. It's up to us as individuals to protect ourselves. Lock your gates, put your car in your garage, have some security lighting, get a dog. You just heard my dog making some noise, but we need to think for ourselves. And also about all this, like next door, crime is everywhere. The other day, somebody was saying that they were down in the Fab 40s and somebody followed them into the house and robbed them. So it's happening everywhere, but let's not make it sound like we're in a crime center here, because we're not in a crime center.
Absolutely right.
Anyway, but don't
Thank
put
you,
it
Bill.
down Howe Avenue because it'll be a waste of money.
Well, I agree with you, Bill. It would be pretty expensive and not really do much.
It would do nothing because nobody walks along there. They come down, there's a bike path that comes down off of the levee right there on the other side of onto University. So, unless we put a fence down University and block off the owners that are over there against the river, which ain't going to happen, it's, there's no way to block our area off.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Let's see. We got some multiple requests here. Will, you haven't spoken in a while. Will, your hand is up.
Yes, I'm unmuting myself. Couple of things. One, a little bit of history. I tried a number of years ago to get cooperation from Campus Commons to do joint security because it does make a lot of sense. This is one contiguous area, and obviously nobody who's in here to commit a burglary or a theft differentiates between the two areas. So if they become more amenable to it, that's an excellent idea. Any money you spend on security is sand down a rat hole. I spent 50 years in working in law enforcement, criminal justice, and teaching criminal justice and researching criminal justice. There is literally no evidence available that indicates random patrol reduces crime. It just doesn't do it. Any halfway, even not very bright burglar knows enough to just wait until the patrol vehicle goes by and then move forward. You might stop an occasional drive-through car break-ins because they do drive up, use a car, jump out of the car, break into the car, and then, but, and lastly, I'd say we need to watch our terminology. People keep talking about robberies in here. We haven't had any robberies in here. We've had thefts and we've had burglaries. We also have not had home invasions. We've had burglaries where somebody happened to be home, but a home invasion is a term of art, meaning, people crash your front door and come in armed and rob you. So it communicates a sense of risk that's unnecessary. What we have are thefts and we have burglaries. And as was well pointed out, they have them everywhere in Sacramento, and they always spike around Christmas because everybody's so conscientious about packing up a bunch of brand new presents and stacking them under a tree where they're easy to steal. So I'll close with that. Know your neighbors, pay attention. But most of the money you spend on security simply makes people feel better, but it doesn't make them any safer.
Good point about the terminology. Well, that's excellent. Jerry, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I know I sound like a broken record and it's always the same old Pollyanna stuff, but the neighbor to neighbor group, I have over 100 people, almost 110 email addresses, and that's households that I send information out to. When we had the holiday party, we had about 90 people at that. When we do the Saturday coffees, we get upwards to 30 people. These are people who are committed to knowing each other and knowing what's going on in the neighborhood. And I know it's not the answer, but it is, I think it should be considered as part of the solution to getting people involved and knowing what's going on and who's doing what in the neighborhood. I know it sounds trivial, but I do think that it's more important than it's given credit for. That's all.
Yeah, Jerry, I don't think that's
Absolutely right.
trivia at all. You're right. The folks that are involved with you are people who are more involved in the community. There are a lot of folks who are not. So I think that's an opportunity for us to take advantage of.
And just to add on to that, I mean, I think what you've started is they could be ambassadors, to maybe help us better form a neighborhood watch and put those tools together. Maybe it's the closed Facebook group. They have suggestions for us and little worksheets and things to help us, get contact information for people in our alleys. And so I do hope that a few people from your group can, help step forward and make this happen finally, because we've been talking about it for a while. And I know they tried a couple years ago, and the contact of the city isn't, it's difficult for us to get a hold of. I know we've tried to, Peter on the ILS committee, it's been challenging for us, but I think we can make it happen, or with help from you guys.
Well, I encourage all of you to use this group as, a source to reach out, because we're out there and we've got some of the most active, helpful people that you could ever want are involved with the neighbor to neighbor group. So I just
have to
encourage you.
Jerry, I have to agree with you. It is a fabulous group that
Yeah.
No, thank you for organizing and doing what you do.
Well,
Thank you, Jerry.
I just encourage you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I see we have two more hands up. Pat Singer, did you want to speak again?
Just very quickly, I want to add a comment. I think it's important to get feedback from folks in our community. So I agree, with Marcus's original suggestion. I think though it's very important whoever is actually going to work on the questionnaire, you want to focus on what people view as the problem rather than trying to collect a lot of solutions from them. Because if you don't pick their solution, you will then have some neighbors that are feeling disenfranchised. And I think we really need to understand what the issue, how people are viewing the issue, and then we can come up with some common solutions for them. And although this is not something that I actually did in my career, I'd be willing to raise my hand and volunteer to help with that type of thing, because it's really important in how you ask your question.
Pat, can you attend the ILS committee meeting next Tuesday?
I will check my calendar and make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Lynn, your hand is up again. Hello, Lynn.
Maybe she.
I'm sorry, that was from before.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just click the little thing, hand down. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing.
Usually the host does that. Okay, I'll try to find it.
Yeah, okay. It's over on the right side. Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands. Let me move on then to what the homeowners can do. This is a pretty exhaustive list, but I think the ILS could also add to it as they see fit. So again, the police department is quite clear that we are our own first line of defense, which includes diligently locking gates, doors, windows, garage doors, and vehicles, even if your vehicle is in your garage. It has happened when someone got into the garage and stole the car because it wasn't locked. Park your vehicle in the garage so that you not become an attractive nuisance. Install improvements such as put dowels in the windows and the sliding glass doors. I can tell you that Home Depot's got lots of dowels. I have doweled all my windows. Gate locks.
Doweled windows.
Doweled windows.
I have too.
Good. Many folks have locks on their gates, many do not. We should get word out to folks that they can do that. I just installed one on my gate. I went to Betsy and said, what does it take to do this? Do I need approval? And she said, well, you buy it, we'll install it. And I did. And Marcus, I guess, did you get yours installed today?
Yes, and I'm very happy with it. It works perfectly.
Okay, what's your code? What's your code?
It's my ATM card code. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Okay, approved exterior lighting, perhaps consider an alarm system. I know Marcy Best told me that she bought a Simply Safe system, which was easy to install. She was very proud of herself doing it by herself, and she's quite happy about it. A security screen door is a possibility. I just installed a security screen door. It was not cheap, so it would be worth looking into, but they're pretty expensive. Security cameras, doorbell camera. We're going to actually talk about security cameras in a minute. Better options for your door locks, and perhaps a garage door sensor that says your garage door is open via the smartphone app. I'm always, like everybody else, drive away thinking, oh gosh, did I close my garage door? And I probably need to get something to tell me that
John,
Yes.
all the new garage door openers are actually Bluetooth garage door
Oh.
openers.
No?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Mine
I
is.
can tell when my wife comes home when the garage door goes up and down. So, and it locks actually at 11 o'clock. I have it set at 11 o'clock, so it doesn't work from 11 p.m.
Oh,
on. Just
okay.
anyway, so stuff like this you can do, you know.
So what did a new garage door opener cost these days?
I don't know, $600-700 probably. I paid
Yeah,
for it.
I think so. Yeah, okay.
Then
That's
it
a good
has to be
option.
installed.
Yeah, yeah.
So Betsy, can you pan over to the gate lock? Because I never seen one of these before. I think we showed it in our newsletter though.
Betsy, did you hear that?
Oh, sorry. You were getting, I was just wondering that gate lock, I'd never seen one of these before. I think it might have been in our newsletter, but
Ashley,
No,
I'll send you.
actually, it hasn't been out in the
would
newsletter
you
yet.
be able to
but it
go
will
to
be.
Google and show, or go to your,
Oh,
yeah.
yes, I'm
Ashley,
sorry.
I'll just send it to you.
Oh, I was just hoping we could show
But
people.
I
in
can
the
bring it
meeting.
up here right now, I think,
Yeah.
because I do have,
Well, we can put it in the newsletter this week, right?
yes,
How do we
absolutely.
do that?
I think that
Ashley,
probably-
Ashley, I bought mine through Amazon.
Okay.
Where else do you buy things these days? And it came very quickly. It was about $40.
That was it?
And then it has to be installed.
Okay.
There it is.
You see it?
Yeah,
Yep.
so you have a keypad and when it comes, you have to program it. Otherwise it's all zeros. The wire from the keypad, when you pull the keypad down, it pulls.
The little cable is
pulls the
behind this
cable
little
through the
door.
fence and it unlocks the gate. And that little shield on the top right shields the locks so the boogeyman can't just reach over the fence and open your gate.
Right, right.
So I'm very happy with it.
Pretty cool.
I think I might have to upgrade my lock. Thanks, John.
Well, thank Betsy. It was, I asked
Oh, thank
Betsy for
Betsy.
advice. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
let me get back to the agenda here. We
Yeah,
gotta keep
let me
going.
minimize this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's a good one.
Okay, so, we have some other things. We've talked about neighborhood watch before, and honestly, it's not really gotten off. And, aside from that, and in addition to it, we need to encourage folks to be better about knowing the neighbors on their alley. And Betsy, I think we need to add that to the list. I will admit that I don't know everybody on my alley, and I should.
Yeah.
So we need to add that. And then reporting incidents to the association. If you've had something happen at your home, you need to report it, not just going to the police department. You got to let the association know. Otherwise, we won't find out about it. And then there's some kind of things you can do at home. Maybe have timers on your televisions and lights if you're not home. When somebody knocks on your door, maybe yell through the door, "Who is it?" With some instances where people don't respond to the knock, so the boogeyman doesn't think you're there, and they go around the back and try to come in your back door. And again, work with each other, all your neighbors. And if you have packages coming and you don't have a secure location for packages, figure out a different place, including you can have your packages delivered to the clubhouse if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me stop there and see if there are comments from the directors on that list.
I hope Marcus, you want to comment on the mail issue? Mailing slots?
Yeah.
Are you
on the
there?
Mailboxes and.
So, yeah, that's another thing, like, especially in my alley, since I have lived here, we had, I would say, about at least 3 incidences where overnight, several of our mailboxes, external mailboxes, got vandalized. And, part of trying
Mail
to
stolen.
mail stolen and just, all over the place. But I think in order to deter people to come through our alleys, it would be a great idea to get away with external mailboxes. And that's a little bit of a challenge. We've been debating and talking about this over, for a while. I actually ran into one of our mail carriers today, and I got pretty good information that was just truly a coincidence, that she could tell me quite a bit. John, that was actually this afternoon after our executive session. She was right in front of a vacant home that has a mail slot and an external mailbox. And I said to her, how do you know which mailbox you're going to use? And she said, well, actually, this home is vacant. And I said, well, I do know that this home is vacant. However, how do you know that home is vacant? She said, well, you really have to know each home that is vacant. And if you have a home with 2 mailboxes, you need to know as a mail carrier how that person would like to have the mail delivered. And I'm thinking, Jesus, 590 homes she has to know. Well, okay, they share, have, I think, 2 carriers. And she said, yes, and it's a challenge. And she said she wishes we would go away or get away with the exterior mailboxes. And I said, what? I was very surprised. And she did say, it used to be that we have only mail slots, which makes it a lot easier. And then someday they came up, the post office supposedly came up with that great idea that every house needs to have an external mailbox so they can actually deliver the mail with their trucks, so they don't have to get out of their cars. However, they quickly found out that this does not work in our neighborhood, the way we have the houses situated. So they are actually not allowed to deliver the mail in our neighborhood with their cars. They must deliver it by walking. And it would be a lot easier for them to go all mail slots. That's what she said.
But the
So-
post office has made the rules. And we
No,
can't
they,
expect them to use the slots in the alleys where we have the newer, streets in here have those outdoor mailboxes, and that's because the law or the rule was changed, and they're not supposed to. A lot of us put mail slots in ourselves, but we don't expect the mail to be put in them.
So this is really a game changer, though, from what I hear Marcus is saying, is that initially that was the idea, is that they would stay in their truck and deliver to the mailboxes on the post. But they found out once that the development was built that there simply is not enough room to do that safely, and they still have to get out. They deliver by hand, on foot, all of the mail in Nepenthe. So if they at one time thought that, they were going to deliver by truck, they've abandoned that and they deliver by foot. So if
I'm
that's
sorry,
the
they do
case-
not. Our large alley on Dunbarton is all done by truck.
Ah, and is Robin or Bonnie your carrier? Do you know, Carol?
Bonnie.
Bonnie, interesting.
Well, sometimes I'm on Dunbarton, and sometimes they come in the truck, and other times they park the truck on the street and they walk the alleys.
Okay.
I've seen them do that.
Well, and I live on Dunbarton as well.
And Robin does it. So it sounds like we have everybody doing it differently, and Robin's always walking.
Yes, Robin does where I live on Dunbarton and always walks. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's,
But the more to the point is that I think what Marcus is saying is that we now have the ability to use mail slots
yeah,
at our homes. And that I think the board is considering, and I'm speaking maybe a little ahead of asking the Architectural Review Committee to come up with some guidance on height and that kind of thing. So if a homeowner does want to have a slot, they can, but they would have to install it.
One thing you're overlooking is some of these newer streets. It's a post office law now that they don't use the slots. You're going to have to get a whole thing changed in order. We can't just decide to do that ourselves.
We
That's
we
true.
got feedback from the post office that we can.
Yeah,
Well, it depends on who you talk to, so whatever.
yeah, it does.
Well, let's, is it, we didn't have this, we didn't have this on the agenda, Betsy, but would it still be appropriate for us, ask the ARC to give us some guidance?
Well, I mean, that is a board charge. You don't really even need a resolution for that.
Okay, let's add it.
And John, also I saw Will wrote something about what collective
Yeah.
mailboxes. I
Yeah.
was told due to the, and forgive me the terminology here, but due to the average age apparently of our residents, they abandoned that thought to put in. So that's what I was told.
They abandoned which thought?
To put in those collective mailboxes.
The gang mailboxes where everybody's in one location.
Yeah, you see what Will has put in chat here, and that I remember that we were having a lot of mail theft and vandalism, and the board appointed a committee. And the committee did meet with the post office, and at that time, yeah, that was what they heard is, no, you can't go to mail slots, but here's these gang boxes that you can install instead, which only makes it easier for thieves to get everybody's mail. But so that's why that didn't happen.
Okay, well, let's ask the ARC to give us some guidance on this.
So, you know, in defense of the ARC, before we task them with another thing, because I'm looking at all the things tonight that we are going to ask them to do, I think we need definitive or definite instructions and, you know, information from the post office before we start talking about slots. I thoroughly believe that we could abandon those other ones, but I just, before we even talk about what the mail slot looks like, let's make sure that we can tell everybody they could go to a mail slot.
How do we accomplish that part?
Well, I'd be happy to drive over there and talk to them in person if I can find a person to talk to.
You're going to have to talk to someone more than just an employee in the post office.
Right.
Yeah, it has to be
That's
I
who I
get that.
talked to. You know, I did get a phone call. It looks like Ashley's been researching online. I did get a phone call from the supervisor, but she's not the postmaster. And the way she phrased it was, hey, Bonnie and Robin have indicated that they don't mind delivering to slots. Well, what happens when Bonnie retires? I mean, I just didn't feel good about that guidance. If I got an official letter from the postmaster saying that, you know, they would deliver to mail slots, then I think it would be something we
Since
could
Betsy,
share.
since Marcus is volunteering here, could you, Betsy, could you and Marcus work together to see if we could find out who the person of authority is and try to contact them?
Yeah.
You know, I've been in situations in my professional life where I was given approval by somebody who didn't have the authority to do it.
Yeah.
That is not a good start.
Yeah, and after we get that authorization, then I would say, let's ask, you know, architectural committee to look at
Okay,
this.
all right, good idea. Will, you have your hand up?
No, I already put it in chat. I just wanted, there
Okay.
was extensive discussion with the post office before, and they turned us down flat. And again, they suggested those collective boxes, but you know, but there may be some change in policy, but they were totally resistant before, and there was a lot of pressure put on.
Okay, all right. Mary, were you waving your hand?
I'll just talk to Marcus later.
Okay, good. All right, okay. Okay, that is the list. unless I see comments from folks, have tons of input. I've been taking notes here.
Me too.
Man, this is fantastic. I wish we had more people on, but I'm grateful that as many people were on as were that gave us some input. We need to figure out a way to get more input. Marcus, I'm sensitive, and you and Ashley both feel the same way on this. So we can talk about that next week at the ILC. Ashley, I'm planning to attend.
Okay, good.
Okay, all right.
I think I'm
Okay.
gonna try and attend too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a problem. Because that would be 3 board members at the same meeting.
So I'm attending as a homeowner, right? I'm not a member of the committee or anything.
Well, I don't know if that, I don't know.
We can check that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, all right. Okay, let's move along to item B. Charge the Architects Review Committee with regarding paint colors. Betsy, can you introduce this, please?
Well, like it says here on the agenda, I know that Mary and Ashley have researched some different paint options, and they've done a lot of homework on it. They've been working with, well, they met with representatives from Dunn Edwards, representatives from Kelly Moore, and from Sherwin-Williams. And Sherwin-Williams put together some nice looking palettes. But I don't think that they've completely encapsulated maybe what Nepenthe would like. So I think what the board is wanting here, right, is to have the ARC look at what has been done to date and make recommendations. Maybe Mary would like to add to that.
No, after I saw, Ashley and I discussed it because they're not presenting what we asked Sherwin-Williams to present. So I'm going to go back to Sherwin-Williams, ask for pictures that depict exactly what we asked for before we engage with the architectural committee reviewing something that we don't even want to recommend.
Okay,
So you're
all right,
not ready.
all right. So that's
Sorry, guys.
that's not ready. That's not ready to go.
Okay, good.
All right. So
Okay,
that
next agenda item, charge the finance committee to review solar panels in the clubhouse. I think we've actually done that.
Yep.
And will, unless you disagree, we've done that.
Yeah.
Okay. Item D, request from Architects Review Committee regarding security camera approvals. Betsy, could you introduce this?
Actually, Alan might be better, but he as the committee stated in their minutes, because of the renewed interest or the uptick in interest in having security camera systems, they have prepared a letter that can be used when a homeowner applies. And the letter basically recaps what the criteria is, and it has a place for the homeowner to sign that they understand that regardless of what their security company is telling them, ultimately they are responsible for ensuring that this installation complies with the criteria. And the criteria is quite generous. It has a lot of options in it, but I think they also recognize that, camera shapes change. So this is a way to have a little bit of freedom on some of those items and ensure that the homeowner does take responsibility for it. And maybe
and then that would come directly to you rather than
Right.
having to go through
And that would
the
get changed.
committee
That-
process. Yeah.
right.
Why
So
don't we
the
let-
idea,
talk about that?
What was that? What Joyce just said? I didn't hear it.
Why?
Yeah, what did you say?
I just said, why don't we let Alan explain the new process for approval?
Should Alan do it or should Ken do it?
It doesn't matter.
Well, Alan is unmuted. And I think Betsy touched on the process. The process will save time. As you know how it works now, people put in applications to the architecture committee, generally wait till the committee has its meeting, and then the committee makes a recommendation to the board, who at a board meeting will do as you've done this evening. Now, the homeowner need merely fill out this letter of application and take it to the office, and Betsy will sign it, and the homeowner has permission right away. We
Yeah.
may alter the letter a little bit to clean it up and make it more general, but it's coming out, the way to respond to these burglaries that have happened, and when homeowners want to install a security system right away.
Okay. Any objection from the directors on this?
I
It's
have no
good to me.
objections. I think it's great that they're being proactive.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, Betsy, do we need a motion?
Yes, there is a proposed resolution in your, I believe. Yeah, the board approves the procedure for the approval of
Right.
security
Yes.
cameras and systems for the homeowners. So if
So
anybody-
I move that we approve the process, the new process.
May I have a second?
I
I'll
second.
second it.
Oh,
Oh,
Any
sorry.
objections from the directors?
no.
Objection approved. Okay, item E, request for a holiday decor group. This is to buy a replacement Christmas tree
Yeah,
for $3,000.
well, for not to exceed 3,000.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Can I say something about this?
Sure.
Of course.
you go first.
First of all, I would like to thank this group for the amazing job that they did.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
fabulous as every year. So all the people that were involved, thank you very much. It looked fabulous. Great job.
Yeah.
And they deserve a new tree if that's
Yeah.
what they want.
Betsy, does this require, yes, it does require a
Well,
resolution.
I have just I mean, I don't want to be a Grinch or a party pooper, but I mean, $3,000 seems like a lot. I would like to see if we could salvage the lights or just give another try or see if there's volunteers that will, I know the letter talks about the handyman, but if it's 2 hours of a handyman versus spending $2,500 on a tree, I just think we should just, like I just moved my parents' mountain house and we had this big, beautiful tree. We didn't know it. My sister finally took it, but you know, had there been that time, you know, I would have, and if I would have known, I would have donated it. I just think it's, I would like to see what they're proposing for purchase. If it's, you know, I understand it's going to be over $500, but I would just like to see what it is, the description of the tree before we spend the money on it. And I feel like we can wait on this. That's all. I appreciate everything that they do with the decorating. I know it's work. I'd even go and install the tree. I mean, I do it. I'm good on ladders. I can do things. I know I'm short, but I don't care if I fall.
Well,
I don't have
think the insurer
osteoporosis.
might have a different feeling on that.
Well, I think there's people out there that would volunteer to help out. I know that I certainly don't want the decorate, you know, I don't want, I just feel like we have to be pretty careful with our money. And that's my only thing. I just want to make sure we're getting a good value. It still feels like a lot of money to me.
So actually, it does say not to exceed.
I know it's not to exceed, but if it's not to exceed that, I just want to see what they're buying first before I say yes or no.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm
Can I
ready.
make a motion to move this?
Yeah, yes. And I
As
second,
proposed?
I
I
second,
propose.
All right,
And Linda seconded.
Yeah.
okay. Betsy, why don't you call the roll on this?
Okay, Baker,
Aye.
Gray,
Can I
I'm for-
propose?
What?
there's a vote.
We have a
Leanne
motion,
moved
Mary.
approval-
I'm going neutral then because
Well, or Marcus moved approval, no, Lynn.
I,
moved ap-
we've
Let's
only,
start over.
Can I
Marcus,
propose that we just
Hold on.
look at the description for,
We have a motion.
okay,
and
we
it's
have
been
to-
seconded.
We have to deal with that first.
Yeah, so we're
Okay.
just calling roll.
All right, the motion is to approve the purchase not to exceed $3,000 as proposed. Betsy, please call the roll.
Okay, President Baker,
Aye.
Vice President Gray,
I don't know what it is to be neutral.
So you abstain?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Director Tandras.
No, just because I want to see the description before I buy it, just like we bought things for the weight room. I got to see what we bought first. I think that's
And-
prudent.
Okay. And Cook
Aye.
and Dasher.
Aye.
So the motion carries 3-2.
Motion carries. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, item F, request from the grounds committee.
I mean, just to
Um,
put that into perspective for everyone, if, let's say it was $3,000, we've got 590 homes. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I mean, it's $4 or $5 a homeowner for the year, and that's it. But anyway, I just wanted the opportunity to keep the price low maybe, or give us some time to find a good deal on something. That's all. I'm not saying we don't need a new tree. And it doesn't give me the opportunity, to see that it's spent wisely.
Let's move on, please.
Okay.
We have a request from the grounds committee for, I think, some guidance on turf removal. And then we have another item from the grounds committee regarding shrub removal. Let me first say that and I actually would like some input here from Directors Gray and Tandras. I think the description of the action at the November meeting is not really accurate here. This says the grounds committee understands that the proposal was turned down, that we should be eliminating turf, not improving it. As I recall, the objection was, I would really like to see more drought resistant turf, not just eliminating in this particular area. Mary and Ashley, am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I'd say in general, it was partly that, and just the ongoing issue with how it's been mowed, I just didn't think, and they've already replaced it before. And if you look at the site, I think there's probably a better solution for it. And I just worry that, we're going to spend that money and it's going to be the same thing, because the way it was explained to me when I met with the Ellwanger, it's just the mower just kind of trashes around in that same spot, and it's sort of a hill, and I just worry it's going to be the same thing over again. I would just like to look at maybe some other solutions. That's all. I mean,
Well,
something needs to be done there, but
This question from the committee
Can
is much broader than that. It's looking for some guidance on turf removal in general.
Can I respond?
Yes.
So John, I think you recalled accurately, at least my feeling on it. It isn't about removing all turf. We're going to start paying for water. Grass takes a lot of water. The grass that we currently have. Actually, the Ellingers researched and found some grass that is drought tolerant and comes back. And so the point really wasn't that, I want to see all the turf gone. The point is that I hear a lot, people don't want to increase costs. We're moving it, we need sustainability. So if I were to provide guidance overarchingly in talking to that particular homeowner, it wasn't, they proposed an area where there'd be sustainable grass, perhaps an area where rocks could be installed and flattened, because all it is this little tiny area. I just think it needed to be a little more thoughtful, and just because the reserve study says there's money for that purpose, I think we need to research different types of grasses when we're doing in areas where it makes sense. Marcus and I talked a lot about it, And there are little tiny areas of grass that make no sense. There are huge areas like near John, which, you know, nobody would want to take out and, you know, I mean, it's beautiful. So it's, it isn't quite as simple as it was stated there.
Marcus, you're the liaison. What's your take on this?
So since this is kind of like a triangle over there, sort of, you know, with multiple grassy areas, with also multiple different type of grass, it would have been sort of like a test area. What could be done in a broader, in a bigger scale, if needed, throughout the community. It is, I think, financially still, I would say, affordable, more affordable to remediate that area and possibly take, you know, take advantage of what we learn over there and implement it in different areas throughout the community. That's what I think that area really was all about. And hopefully it would look nice too. I mean, and if that project would fail, then we would know that we're not gonna do any of the other areas throughout the neighborhood. I think that.
I think, I'm assuming Steve is still on. I'm gonna call on him here in a second. The question we are being presented with is, what is your guidance for next year? Is all turf to be removed community-wide? If not, what kinds of areas should be considered? We know that in past years, areas of turf have been converted to plants, being less water per the grounds visions. The question is, are we prepared to give guidance for turf removal? Or does that need more study? He's asking for guidance. Steve?
I mean, if you were to look at the pilot project, and this is going to go into the shrub removal for me, but I mean, I saw Carson put in brand new sod and, you know, when they had an opportunity to do something else, I mean, at least a better grass. I mean, I'm just a little bit wary.
Actually, just to let everybody know, Carson does actually turf renovation on a regular basis with a really high success rate. And, you know, they have a company that specializes actually in that. And that area would really have been a good opportunity for them to show us what they can do.
Yeah, and I'm not questioning that they have their expertise. What I am more focused on is a grass like the Ellingers researched that is drought tolerant. I mean, there's sod and there's sod. And if we're going to.
Well, it wouldn't be sod that we put in there. There's
Well,
no
but they
sod.
were just proposing grass seed. And when the research was done by the Ellingers, it wasn't the right grass seed. It wasn't the right time of year. It wasn't sustainable. I mean, they provided a lot of background.
Well, I'm
They
not
didn't
sure
even
if you want
want
to
what
use
the committee was
Ellingers versus Carson's. I'm really not quite sure who the experts are. You know, I do like the Ellingers a lot. These are very nice people. Don't misunderstand me, but I'm not sure if we can.
Well, part of the problem with Carson is they never show us a design or a plan that this is a scope of work of
There is
exactly what
no
they're going to
design.
do.
We're getting off.
Well, all right. Well, then they could at least specify what, I never get to see anything, or I feel like I'm just writing a check.
So in response to John's question, if I were to answer this question today, I think that we need to give it more thought, because we're obviously, if listening to the directors, we're not all on the same page. And therefore, either we need to provide better direction or ask the committee to come up with a proposal. But I think overarchingly, sustainability and less water is a community focus.
Steve Huffman, are you still on?
I am, yeah.
I think what you're hearing is we're not all thinking on the same page here. And I think we need to give this some more thought with you on what the guidance might be. I'm sorry we can't give you direct guidance tonight, but I think Mary's absolutely right. We need to give this some more thought.
No,
And
we can
you know,
always-
it ties into me personally, how I've always said, you know, I feel like we need to hire a landscape architect. I mean, we might be, maybe it's just 4 hours of their time where they can give us a plant list and maybe some examples, a few renderings, just they can be generated in the computer of just examples of how to replace things when we do have to do these renovations, when we have these little problem spots, an example to go off of. I mean, I don't feel like what we're paying for, if you look at the medians, you know, all these different things, I just, I haven't been very happy with them. And that's why I get scared about paying the money. And I feel like we need design principles to help guide us and have a vision. You know, we're going to be doing the painting, the colors are going to be much better than what we have right now. And I think we need to play off of that California feel, that mid-century modern. And we don't have the design principles to guide us in making, and the grasses and those things picked out, which makes any little project for me to approve difficult, because I don't ever know what it's going to look like that they're going to do. And I'm probably not going to like it. It's going to be a bunch of mulch and turkey fodder.
Well, we do have a vision document.
Yeah, but they're still incomplete. We say we want sustainable, we have plant lists, and we're trying to do this, but they're really, as far as design goes, I say they're very incomplete.
And a vision document I see as overarching, and I think that's why Steve came to us. You can have a vision document, but what specifically are we asking for? And in this case, I do think we need to be more specific. Like what areas do we feel like we want to remediate turf, and what areas do we feel like maybe should be rock or blended into an existing landscape with sustainable plants, that kind of thing. I think, Steve, aren't you asking for clearer guidance?
Yes, I mean, we work for you.
Yeah, and then, you know,
You set policy. And so I'm not getting much direction right now, but fortunately we're all at the very beginning of the year, so we have some time.
So for me, like I went through the zone 7, I drove over there, I took pictures, I walked over in my area, and you know, about the shrubs. Yeah, a shrub removal. I mean, how does your group see which shrubs be removed and what they should be replaced with? I don't see that. I mean, I know that you asked for Carson to do a proposal, but still.
Actually, we're talking about turf.
Well, I know, but it's the
Shrub
lack of
removal is
design and the specifics that we don't have, that we need.
But I think you're talking about having broad community support for changing design. So that is
Well,
maybe
that goes
something
along
that-
with turf and, you know, what kind of grasses do we go for more of a, you know, what's our look and feel going to be here?
How do we get
Right.
off dead center on this?
Well, whatever.
So
I have an idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mary.
Marcus and I had a kind of a long chat about this. And, because it's difficult, and we've seen that with all the different contractors who've come in. You know, some have ripped out a whole bunch of hedges and put in a bunch of stuff. I mean, we've gone through a lot of visual change for those of us who, like, I've lived here 10 years. I've seen lots of change, and I agree with Ashley. It wasn't willy-nilly, but I never saw a plan for what it would initially look like. And so to benefit the grounds committee, like Steve and Marcus, you know, so I mean, I don't want them to have to swirl around guessing what we want. It actually may be right. Maybe we hire a landscape architect for 4 hours just to provide sustainable plants, sustainable grasses. And if you're removing, you know, to give us just some ideas. And
Yeah, and there's
also-
some good spots here and there. And I meant to, the weather, you know, the plants have died off. It wouldn't look good for me to do it right now, but there's some patches within our community. They're absolutely beautiful and they're newer, and show those as an example. and get community feedback, like, is this sort of what we want going forward? I mean, it's a great opportunity for us to increase the value of our homes here and make it, make this a much better, we look dated. Yeah, there's all sorts of issues going on. Some of the hedges and trees aren't thriving. They were never planted right. I mean, there are things I think we need to address, but I don't like the willy-nilly approach of we just spent $5,000 and it doesn't look that much different, or it just died, or it just, I would like to see take this opportunity for us to, and I don't think it's fair for us to be asking the architectural committee to be guessing every time. And then their problem is with Carson never gives them anything. They just say, trust us and we'll plant something. I don't think that's right. Other people, I'm a professional. I don't get to do that. When anyone buys anything from me, I have to go do this big proposal. I have anyone with any job, an architect, whatever, no one can operate that way.
Actually, Carson does not plant anything without our approval.
Well, that's not necessarily true. They sort of move things around. They just came for the pilot project. They just came with a bunch of plans.
Let me suggest this. We're not going to solve this tonight. It's almost 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Still have issues to talk about.
I'll go to the next meeting.
I think the idea of having some expert opinion is a good one.
Thank you.
Ashley, could you attend the next grounds committee meeting?
I will.
All right, Steve, when is your next meeting?
The 20th, 3
Okay.
o'clock at, I think, Betsy, unless I'm
Yes.
wrong, it would be at the Dunbarton Cabana.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and Steve, you might recognize that you might have to do it via Zoom. I'd leave that up to you. But if COVID doesn't cooperate, you'll have to decide that.
Yeah, we may have to have a Zoom meeting.
Okay, all right. Okay, now we have a shrub removal remediation map issue. Betsy, can you bring these up?
Yes, so these are the maps showing what each zone steward has designated as a potential area for shrub renovation, really, because you see two yellow alleys or you see one walkway here and one alley. It doesn't necessarily mean that this zone steward is saying, take everything out, but that there is a lot of heavy shrubbery here and we probably need to renovate this area and would like to, this would be the place to start. So each zone steward has identified an area within their zone. And as you know, last time you met, you approved sort of the sequence since we had already done the pilot project in zone 6. It was agreed that then it would go to 7, then zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So in zone 1, there is an alley up at the corner of American River and Commons.
Can I stop you for a second?
Mhm.
These are proposals, but we would only be asked tonight to ask for a proposal in zone 7.
Correct.
These other ones would come later if the board decided to move ahead.
That is correct.
I went over to zone 7 as well as walked my zone. I just feel, for me, getting a price from Carson is fine, but I still don't understand which hedges you want to remove, it's the whole vision problem again that I'm struggling with. I feel like zone 7, there's potential hiding spots. You've got people that can come over from,
Correct.
the
And that's the
levee,
goal
and
here.
I almost feel like we should just address the hiding, kind of like more of the hiding spots over there. But I don't feel like there's enough detail in what you're trying to achieve and what it would be replaced with and what the look and feel would be. So I just can't. I mean, you could ask Carson for it. Doesn't mean we approve it, but I feel like we're wasting everyone's time until we get My priority, if you want to talk about priorities, is more of those trouble areas that are addressed, that goes to the minutes, but anyway,
Steve, do we have input, or would the residents in Zone 7 have input into this?
Well, of course, the zone steward in Zone 7, just like all zone stewards, is the expert in her area, and she does talk regularly with people. And she's the one who identified them. You know, there was a question earlier, what kind of shrubs are we talking about? Well, we're talking about boxwood, we're talking about photinia, we're talking about privet, the ones that require a lot of pruning. And if you want to know what it's likely to look like, go over to the pilot project in Zone 6 and look at the alleys. That's what it's likely to look like.
I mean, that's way too much money. There's no way we can embark on something like, again, that was $10,000 a house. I mean, I'm sorry, but we've got so many other fish to fry over here. And to spend that kind of money without, the design principles in place.
I don't know yet what this would cost.
Well,
can I want to jump in here just because Steve keeps asking for guidance. And the one thing that I feel like when we're looking at a budget for a year, tree trimming costs a lot of money, and we still don't know, or I haven't seen the budget from Grove for what the tree maintenance is going to be this year. I would like to see that, because we do that every year, and a lot of times it's a lot of money, and it's very important. And I think it should be a priority. I think we should put, I like to see.
Mary, I think we actually have that. If I'm not mistaken, we have that budget.
Yeah, well, then I would like to see, I need a bigger picture before I approve one thing. Also, we're going to be getting these huge water bills, supposedly. I don't know if they're huge, but water bills. And I would want to make sure before we embark on anything else, taking anything out, putting anything in, that all the irrigation is functioning. Maybe it all is. I don't know that.
John, may I put something in here?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. One of the benefits of shrub removal and renovation is water conservation. So if you look at that pilot project, you might have noticed that even though it took, it seems to be about 10 weeks, you didn't see any new plants until the last 3. The reason is that they did extensive reconfiguration of drip irrigation. And then when they put in the turf areas, they installed far more efficient spray heads in the turf. So a big benefit of this is water conservation. I think that this could be a very modest beginning, and we could take a look, but we've already got the lessons that we learned from the pilot to guide us.
Well, let me finish my other thought.
Okay.
I was in an area where they get only 4 inches of rain annually. So, and I extensively walked that area. The one thing I noticed is that they had very large shrubs in place because they take very little water. So I actually would like that to be confirmed before we go taking out our mature shrubs, because that is in complete contrast to the area I was in, where they were actually what this whole community has, because it provides greenery.
But Mary, you were in Santa Barbara, where you are near the ocean, and it's never going to be 105 degrees like we have here. So
4 inches of rain. 4 inches of rain. We get 20.
Well, I think there's more to sustainability maybe than just the cost of the water. I mean, there is also the labor to prune, the dump fees to haul away. So it's a big picture. It's definitely complex.
yeah, And it's definitely something, can I share my screen a moment? Betsy, can you share it? I'm just gonna share the pictures of the 7. Of zone 7, I went and walked it.
You're gonna probably have to tell me how to do that.
Well, I just wanted someone to explain to me which shrubs you want removed, or, look at, if we're voting on something and they just do a bunch of like this area that, I mean, I still walk it back to, there's decomposed granite that they press and almost into concrete and manzanite. There's all these
But
amazing.
actually, we have a committee, we have a grounds committee who has done their homework.
Well, we're not professionals. We can hire a landscape
It's
architect.
not we, it's the grounds committee. We are here to support the committees. And we are here to, that's what we have committees for. And they have done a lot of groundwork at this point to investigate what could be done with our professional landscaper that we have hired. So I don't know how much we have to discuss here with Bush.
Well, I'm not impressed. That's all I can say.
It doesn't
Well,
matter.
can I just offer 2 things? One is, I would really like to know what the tree trimming is, because it's a huge cost and we have a lot of other things going on this year. So I would like to know that before I vote, where I would vote to do this. I would really like to have that information first. And second, I think it's no harm, no foul into getting a few different ideas and chatting with a landscape architect or something. We're all volunteers.
We also have to keep in mind, here we are in January, and we're gonna have to have something done pretty soon. We're gonna have no time because it's gonna be too hot to do anything, and we're gonna lose a whole year. I really think we need to get the grounds committee a clear guidance. Otherwise, they're going to be lost. Steve, please chime in. What do you think?
I don't know where you're all heading. I'm hearing no direction at all on turf remediation, and I don't know about shrub removal and remediation.
Let me just say this.
It seems that you're pretty far away from a consensus, so we're just not going to do anything.
Let me say this, Mary, with regard to the arborist, the tree services, that is all detailed in the reserve study. Those budget items are laid out. It's a significant part of the reserve study. So I would suggest you go back and look there, because that's what that estimate, those in there came from Grove. So that's.
But are they current too? Because I read somewhere that there was a new number coming in February or something. I just wanted, I've seen those. I just, if I have an accurate number, and then I kind of know, okay, we have that, and then.
Yeah, here I am spending $3,000 on a Christmas tree potentially. And, we won't spend, maybe $2,000 just to get a second opinion, or have someone put together, like a storyboard for the community to get community feedback on, of what they want the community to look like and what kind of plannings and vision we might have. Marcus, you're in real estate. This is a great opportunity for us to take it up a notch here and increase our values. We need to do it.
We are doing it, but not the way with all of us disagreeing. This is ridiculous what we're doing here. We are not getting anywhere.
Okay, well, I'm done. I'm not gonna say anything more.
All right,
Hopefully someone will come out of the woodwork and support me on this.
I would like to move that the directors approve the proposal that is before us, which is to do the shrub remediation, renovation, restoration in Zone 7 by asking Carson for a cost estimate. We would not proceed with it, of course, until we've approved the cost estimate. So my motion would reflect that. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Betsy, would you call the roll, please?
Okay, Baker,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
Okay. Tangeras,
No.
okay. And Cook,
Yeah, yes.
okay, and Dasher.
Aye.
So
Okay,
just
motion
for
carried.
clarity, it's a proposal.
Yes,
Okay.
They're giving the authority to ask for a proposal, which we would then evaluate.
yeah.
It's reasonable. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Um,
All right.
And can I just, one more thing, they asked for guidance on the, we got nowhere on that grass stuff, you know, like what we want. Is there, but we did talk about potentially looking for someone who can come and give us suggestions on different types of grass. Are we gonna think about that, or we just that kind of went, John, you brought that up and then it just kind of went nowhere. Are we gonna?
Well, I think we're talking about hiring a professional. Landscape architects are licensed in California. We would have to find someone who would be willing to take on the work. I can tell you that everyone in the industry now is absolutely buried. So we may have trouble finding someone who's willing to do the work. I do think it's probably a good idea to see if we can find someone and perhaps solicit, which may require us to prepare a scope of work and request for proposals, which puts a lot of extra work on our staff. Are we prepared to do that?
Well, we have phase one siding and painting to take care of too.
John, the other thing that I have a question on about this is, what if we would do this, what you just suggested or asked us, and who would be maintaining after everything is being done by a different vendor possibly? Would we want to ask Carson to then take care of the work that was done by somebody else?
No, Marks, we would be asking for a separate professional opinion, which we would evaluate, and then we would be able to give Carson direction.
Yeah, it'd be just like a design, you know, a vision board, but very more visual and maybe an expanded plant list and how certain problem areas would be potentially addressed, like when they remove all those shrubs. I'm just looking, I mean, my dad owns a large architecture firm. I'm sure I can, and I used to work for Mocavero Notestein, and Notestein lives over here. I mean, I'm sure I can find, my best friend's husband is a retired landscape architect. I'm certain I can find someone that would, but we could do something as simple as just a
Actually, what you are
consultation.
saying is exactly what Carson is basically proposing to us.
They're not professional designers.
Do we know that?
Yes, we know that. I
Do we
was,
know they do not employ a licensed landscape architect? Do we know that?
maybe they do, but they certainly aren't willing to do anything for us. And
Why not? They are. They did.
are.
they aren't doing renderings,
All right, stop.
are they?
All right,
And
let's
site
try to-
plans?
Let's try to continue here. We're bickering.
Okay.
Ashley and Mary, are you willing to see if we can find a couple of landscape architects that would be willing to propose this work for us?
May I, you may
yes.
be unaware that we had a relationship with a landscape architect in 2014, 2015. His
Oh.
name is Garth Ruffner, and he's the one who created the plant palette that you will find on the community website at nepenthehoa.com. And it is based on principles of drought tolerance. And those are many of the plants that we actually do use. He also made a number of really great recommendations about the water systems, which we've implemented. And I'm sure he would be happy to work with the community again, if that's something the board is interested in.
I certainly would be interested in contacting him again, since he's already familiar with us, and just say we need a little bit more of a refresh or a little bit more design guidance.
Yeah, he was really instrumental in helping with the vision plan, but at that time there wasn't any, there wasn't any readiness to move forward with specific design, but
Betsy,
he kind of laid that groundwork.
What's his name?
Garth Ruffner, and you can see his work on the internet. He has a website, GARTHRUFF.
Can you do that, spell that again, Betsy? Sorry, I don't write that fast.
Yeah, last name is Ruffner, RUFFNER, Ruffner. And his first name is Garth, GARTH.
Okay, so I'm willing to, John, to work on that, but I would also like, it's hard because we can only do 2 people, and I know Marcus is the rep to the committee. So at whatever Ashley and I come up with working with Betsy, somehow Marcus needs to.
Well, and the grounds committee.
Well, Marcus would then, he would be the conduit to the grounds committee. So I just want to make sure that we have a path that way.
Sure, yeah.
Are you okay with that, Marcus, or not?
Not really, no.
No, I mean, what I would recommend
No,
is,
this is,
perhaps that you charge
you
your
guys
grounds
are,
committee.
you and Ashley are involved in quite a few projects, which I really appreciate that you guys taking on some of those projects, but I think you have your hands in too many fires right now. And I think you stick with certain areas, and I'll be happy to work maybe with Betsy on this, and certainly with Steve and the grounds committee. I don't think we need more directors involved in the
Well,
grounds.
The problem I see is, I feel like we need an overall vision design wise for our community. And, this is, we're working on the paint colors. Well, hear me out. I mean, I feel like this is a design element, just along with the paint colors, and it ties it all in together. I am looking at this guy's list, and he's a little bit more like Safeway parking lots, but I don't see this person as, as much of the designer, more of but he'd probably be okay.
Let's do this. Why don't we have the committee through Marcus work directly with this guy Ruffner, assuming he's willing to work with us. And let's start there. Okay? Marcus, you okay with that?
Okay with that, yes.
All right, okay, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I mean, Marcus is the liaison, and I would,
Okay.
Well, I'll send some pictures of some things I like, and when things come back into bloom, we do have a few good patches over here, sharing those successful plannings. I think we need to identify what's really good, what's really bad, and, just some solutions.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
It is 8:20 and we still have 2 agenda items. I'm sorry this is taking so long, but there's been a lot of opinions expressed, which is really welcome. Okay, grounds committee appointments. Betsy, could you introduce this?
Yes, so in recent months, there have been a number of committee applications turned into the office. And per the standards and practices for committees, which I've enclosed in the board packet, I provided those to the grounds chair, who then takes quite a bit of time to meet with each of the applicants, kind of go over what's involved with the job, go over the standards and practices for committee. And then based upon his recommendations, I normally will put the appointments on the consent calendar. I was asked to do things a little differently this time. So although we have the 4 applicants, the grounds chair is recommending the appointment of Nina White and Don Ellwanger to serve on the grounds committee. And that is the proposed resolution. And of course, this term would be ending at the annual meeting, which is May 25th of this new year.
Okay, so I know a little bit of the backstory about Julie and Marcy, but regardless of that, I feel that people that want to serve, and if they talk to the chair, I don't want to be in the business of, if someone wants to serve on a committee, that's fine. I know there are occasions where people can be a little bit destructive. as committee members, but I want to welcome them and I don't want to turn people away. So I move that we include Julie and Marcy.
I would like to propose that motion to appoint Nina and Dawn to the committee.
There's two motions right now.
Motion, Chair. Is there anyone who would like to second Ashley's motion? Motion dies without a second. Marcus, make a motion.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Dawn and Nina to the.
And let me, maybe,
Ashley, please, you're out of order.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, Ashley?
No.
Ashley?
Now you can have a discussion.
Okay, no, it's just, I know, I guess Julie and Marcy didn't exactly follow the landscaping rules, and I think they have a lot of good expertise, and I think it's unfortunate, that we're not welcoming their talents based off of what may have been our inability to address their landscaping needs in a timely manner.
Okay, Betsy, call the roll, please.
Baker,
Aye.
Gray,
Whatever it is to not vote.
abstain.
Yep.
Tingeris
No.
and Cook
Aye.
and Dasher.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries 3-2.
And there was something on the meeting minutes for the landscaping committee that I brought up before, and I was told to wait because it wasn't an item, and it was about the zone stewards trading zones. And I don't agree with that scenario, but I just wanted to express my opinion.
Actually, I think I can cast some light on this. It was a very brief discussion at the December meeting, and it's an idea being advanced by only one of our members. We had a very brief discussion. We agreed to discuss it again on the 20th of this month in some detail. And my question going in is, for any kind of change like this, what would the benefits be? And I can't imagine what they are, but we'll have to be able to discuss it in more detail.
Maybe regular walkarounds in the other zones, but yeah.
That's good clarification. Thank you.
Can I ask, since we're still on the grounds, just a quick question of Steve. So am I incorrect? Is Grove not preparing a new estimate for tree trimming? Is there something new coming up?
Oh, sure. Okay, that's okay. Well, I believe you already approved a proposal from the Grove for what we call maintenance pruning, which is relatively minor pruning of trees in all the zones. So you should already know about that.
I'm just wondering if, I get the impression based on what flows in is that there is like a bigger study that's done of everything. And then what I would like is to know, based on that bigger study, even though there is a reserve amount, what is the estimate based on that bigger study? That's all I'm asking.
Well, the closest thing you're going to see to an estimate is what's on the
reserve study.
Thank you. But that is not a budget, of course. So the Grove will go around each zone and do an inspection. And they will recommend, they'll do two things, Mary. They'll give a report. And you've probably seen those. They have detailed photos and all kinds of things. And then there's the proposal that has the dollars.
Right.
And that's done for each zone. Then the zone steward needs to be able to really understand that. So when any of those proposals comes to my committee, I rely primarily on the applicable zone stewards for their opinions, and they need to have enough time to question the Grove about why they are recommending those changes. If we feel that it's justified, then we recommend approval to you. And ultimately, of course, you're the ones who would approve, and you do that zone by zone.
And I totally appreciate that. And I think you have a great approach. I just would like, I've seen it zone by zone, but then I don't know, like annually, if I guess if you're, what you're saying is I just kind of need to assume the cost that's in the reserve study. I was trying to figure out if we had a more accurate amount, then it's easier for us as a board to then know what amount we're working at to do other improvements throughout the community. So that's what I was just trying to get at.
I believe, Betsy, that the reserve study amount for the major pruning, where entire branches are removed or entire trees are removed, that number that was in the reserve study was done in consultation with the Grove.
Right. The number that was provided to Browning was done based on our history of pruning each zone. But what I can tell you, Mary, and you may recall, I think we haven't had proposals in a while, but my practice is when I ask the board to approve a proposal that is from reserves, I'll note in the resolution, in the proposed resolution, the amount of the proposal to be paid from which bucket. So if it's from reserves, it'll state that it's from reserves. And then I will always try to include the remaining allocation. So if each month as a new amount is approved, that the remaining allocation reflects that balance. So we haven't started with 2022, but that's my practice. So that way the board is making an informed decision and they know we have spent X so far on tree remediations and we have this much left in our allocation, not budget, but allocation.
Yeah, no, that's our practice. And I'm trying to, as a board member, because Steve's asking for guidance and if I have a better picture of the total cost, because trees cost a lot to trim and take care of. So if Carson does, and it sounds like they do, look at the whole area, then we should be able to have, once the ground stewards look at it, we'll know for the year what Grove thinks they need to do. And that would be so helpful because say, we have, I can't remember the number in the reserve study, but I'll just say 200 and it's only going to cost 150, then that maybe give us a little more leverage because we have such huge projects coming, a little more leverage for the grounds committee. And that's all I'm trying to be able to ascertain.
Yeah, well, and it's possible that this year Paul may do it that way. I know he was wanting to be able to provide that kind of information. But it's a lot to take in all at once. And then of course, things happen throughout the year, which may affect it, depending on storms or limb drop or God forbid, tree diseases or things like that. So there are always going to be those variables, but I'm sure we can talk to Paul, right, Steve, and see what we can ascertain.
Is that reasonable? If it's not reasonable, I get it, but I'm just trying to, asking for good guidance means understanding the budget and where we're spending money, and that's all I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable.
Okay.
Okay, have we finished this item?
I think so.
Well, unfortunately, we've had a couple of items where we haven't been able to give Steve the kind of guidance we wanted. I'm sorry, Steve, and we've got to work on that. I appreciate your desire for guidance. And we're going to try real hard to give it to you. Okay, the last item on the new business agenda is the architectural application at 615 Dunbarton. This is an appeal of a denial by the Architecture Review Committee. This is 615 Dunbarton is actually Director Mary Gray's home. She has agreed to recuse herself from voting. Will, however, probably be addressing the issue as a homeowner. Do I have that right, Mary?
Pardon me?
Do I have that right?
I didn't hear the last part of that.
I said that you have agreed to recuse yourself from voting, but you would be addressing, I'm sure, the issues as the homeowner.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so what I'd like to do, I'd like to hear from the ARC first.
So John, I would like to say something, and that is that I didn't realize until 2 days ago that this was not included in the architectural applications and the and so the architectural committee did not prepare ahead of time the written material or the presentation that would have gone along with addressing this appeal. So I did talk to Alan Waters today, and if Ken is still there, maybe they could explain why this application was denied by the architectural committee. So I would like to ask them to explain the recommendation to not approve this application.
Yeah, Linda, that's exactly where I was going.
Okay.
I'd like to hear from the committee on the reason for denial. I would then like to hear from the homeowner why the denial should be overturned. And then I would like to hear from the directors.
Okay, good.
So Ken or Alan, you have the floor.
I think Pat's still on too.
Yeah, this is Ken Luttrell, the chairman.
Hi, Ken.
And it wasn't a unanimous vote to deny the application because I voted in favor of it after the applicant had addressed issues that I had originally about the detailing needed to, to compensate for the removal of the strength of the wall itself and providing the two openings. So I think they had addressed that thoroughly in their details they provided in the final application. The vote at the committee, you asked why the committee voted against it. The vote of the committee basically come down to an opinion that this violates the original intent of the design of the designers for those unbroken walls not having openings in them. There's a lot of units in the association that have windows. There's a lot of units that have blank walls, but that's what it came down to.
Alan, would you like to add to that?
Yes. I'll remind the directors that this application has come before the committee 3 times now. The time before last was in July when the committee did not approve it. At that time, I came up with an appendix that was to the submitted with the architectural committee minutes. And I don't want to go into the whole thing, but as Ken says, it has to do with the aesthetics of maintaining the original architectural design of Nepenthe. I feel that Nepenthe is, I think, a lot more attractive and a lot more nicely maintained in terms of architectural unity than some of the other villages in Campus Commons. And I would direct the director's attention to that appendix from July with photographs of a number of units with their various exterior walls that have chimneys in them that don't have any windows. Because in this architectural style that was used, suppression of windows in certain walls is one of the hallmarks of the style. I believe Betsy has put up the document now, and she's scrolling through it. When she gets to page, starts on the 3rd page.
Okay. Oh.
Just pointing out. That's one, yes.
This picture here without the fenestrations.
This is the, yes, home. Requesting the windows, there it is with the windows. And going on to the next page, if you could, please, Betsy. There's
Okay.
some other photos of,
Hang on. Okay, is this,
that's the 3000 model, the large loft model.
sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty.
Okay, anyway.
Okay.
No, I'm wrong. That is not it. That's the 2000 model with no windows as part of it.
And the 2300 model.
300 model doesn't have windows near its chimney. And then there's a 3000 model. That's the large loft model in which there are windows near the chimney, but you'll notice that there's this suppression of windows in the second story there on the left. There aren't any. Final photo is of the front facade of a 4400 model, showing that to the left of the front door, there are no windows. So essentially, it has to do with keeping our architectural design intact.
If you go up to one of the original photos, we'll go up further, there was one that was actually quite similar than what she was proposing. Keep going.
It is the same house.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that is her house. And
Okay.
it may
Oh,
have
so it's
been-
just a computer rendering.
No, it was done when
No.
she put the windows in the first time.
it may-
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, those windows shown there were wider than what they propose now. They've
Okay.
narrowed them down.
Well, I looked at the plans and it's okay to have slight variations here and there. And I don't think, the pattern you're calling out in the architecture, the design is that noticeable that it would bring attention to it. I personally think we should approve it. And the new windows, it looks like they're going to be much narrower as well.
What are the,
And I thought I was going to get to speak.
Well, Mary, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like the other directors to ask Alan if they have any questions first.
Okay.
Marcus, any questions of Alan?
No, I don't. I have a little statement prepared for this scenario.
Linda, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions because I've been pretty much involved in the evolution of this. I do believe that the CCNRs task the architectural committee with the exterior appearances of our residents. And I value their recommendation. And it was 3 in favor, 1 opposed at the last time this was brought before the architectural committee. It was denied once before too. But I would make a motion to approve it when we're ready to make a motion to approve the denial of this application.
On the basis of just their recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, well, I feel like there needs to be some flexibility. We go and buy a home. I saw the argument of, before you purchase the home, if there's not enough light there, but sometimes there's some simple solutions and some original design flaws, in my opinion.
So the other concern I have is that this would set a precedent for anyone who wanted to add windows to a wall that is already windowless. And we just saw photos of other models in our community, and the blank wall is part of the continuity of the architecture that we have in Nepenthe.
Well, aren't there a lot of the stairwells that are blank walls, but then some of them have this little funky, hokey window? So, I don't think that's, I I don't think that it's a disruptive visual pattern that an average person, you know, driving through a neighborhood, or it wouldn't be like putting a, you know, a Spanish style door on the front of our house. I'd say it's still enough in keeping, especially mid-century style. There were quite a few, and this sort of is a play on that. I don't know, contemporary, but there would often be windows up, what do they call them?
Thirst-through windows?
Yes, thank you. There would often be that. So I don't think it's that big of a deal here.
There was another point that I wanted to make on this too. You know, the purpose for trying to put these windows in this wall is to bring more light into the room inside of that wall. There have been other changes have been made to homes in Nepenthe over the years to bring light into them. The one that I don't like, which we've approved many of them now, are skylights punched into through the roof. You're penetrating your roof membrane, putting these skylights up there to bring light down in. This change on the side of the building is much less intrusive than those.
So Ken,
And-
we did approve, the architectural committee did approve skylights in this home to bring in more light in the same room. In the
No,
living
that
room.
is not true. That is
I think
not
he's
true.
just trying to make the point of following the logic and the
Marcus-
consistency in the logic.
Marcus, you had a statement you wanted to read?
Yes, and so I wrote here, I made a wrote it this morning. The committees have a duty to thoroughly evaluate every homeowner's application. We have guidelines, CCNRs, and rules in place that help the committees to make educated decisions. If there are concerns or questions with the application, they typically work with the homeowner to get a better understanding. In this case, the committee decided not to recommend approval. Our ARC is empowered to make recommendations based on hearing from individual homeowners. It must act in ways that are best for the community as a whole. In this case, that means respecting the recommendation of the committee and valuing the design principles of the community. And I would like to move to deny this application.
Well, you know, just one more thing about this, and I mean, I had the benefit of going into the office and looking at the application. There were quite a few homeowner letters, her neighbors all in support of this. So, you know, if it doesn't bother everyone, you know, I feel like we need to let people have a little freedom. And I think saying that these are the design elements and these walls like this or that, I mean, we're getting into really subjective, very nuanced ideas of what our design over here really is. Like, oh, here's a blank wall. Oh, here's that. But then another one might have a window. But I mean, I get it with the Spanish door versus the mid-century house, but I'd say you guys are really kind of grasping for straws, saying that there's this architectural pattern here that I don't think is strong. I mean, these are not in my opinion, the best design homes for the era. They're okay, but you know, there wasn't really a lot of, I don't know. I've seen better homes, better designs from this era. And I'd say ours is kind of haphazard, and there wasn't really a strong pattern, or it's not Sea Ranch. It's not, you know, I can think of all these other designers with a very strong pattern and palette, and this wasn't one of them. This is just some architecture firm they hired and just did it.
So Ashley, I'm wondering at this point why you moved in here.
Well, it's okay. It's all right. But I'm just
I,
saying
um,
there's
let
some
the-
neat
let the-
things here.
let
It's
the-
the landscaping mostly actually, but
let the
you know,
president-
I feel like there's a lot of potential here and that's why I joined the board is thinking, you know, if we were to spruce this place up a little bit, I thought that there was some upside value, but no one seems to want to go along with me on, you know, bringing it into the 20th century, 21st century, I mean. But if we want to just keep things how they are, then that's fine. We're going to
Ashley,
just
please.
stagnate.
Ashley, please, we have a motion.
Okay, that's fine.
And I second the motion.
Hold on, I did not get to speak.
You will get your chance. We're not asking for the vote yet. We have a motion to approve the denial and it's been seconded. Let's hear from the homeowner.
Thank you. Number one, as a homeowner who's abided by all the guidance that is in the packet for having new windows, all the guidance, not some of it, not just one of it, all of it. So when a committee denies a homeowner who's followed all the rules, I think it's completely wrong. Completely wrong. Number two, I hired an architect who knows and understands this architectural style to give an opinion on whether these windows would enhance, detract, or be neutral. I saw nothing where anybody even took her opinion, a professional architect. It was completely ignored. I was asked by this, and I would also like to update the record. This hasn't been reviewed 3 times. In July, when I submitted my application, I went in, talked to Ken. Ken asked for more detailed plans. I pulled the application. It was not supposed to be reviewed. Ken and I agreed on that. The application was pulled. So that is not true. Number 3, I was asked by the former committee to poll my neighbors because they felt it was an important criteria as to what people felt about changes in their community. It's kind of what Ashley's talking about. Are you okay with this? Is this a change that makes sense to you? It was unanimous. Unanimous. This is our community, our neighbors agreeing with this window change. Unanimous. So here I am. I abided by every single one of the guidance and rules. Hiring an architect to do the design, a structural engineer, an architect to review whether the windows blend in and are an enhancement. I went out at the request of the committee and talked to all my neighbors. Again, unanimous. So I feel this is railroading. I live here. I'm a community member. I abide by all the rules. I follow all the guidance. I talk to the chairperson about the plans. He agrees with them that they're great. I mean, how is it okay to follow all the rules, get expert opinion, and be denied?
So Mary, I'm wondering, where is the rule that says you can add a window to a blank wall here?
It's in, that's what a new window guidance is. You don't put a new window in a full wall. You put a new window where there's a place to have an opening. That's why there's all those stairwell lights that are in. People wanted more light in their house. You don't put a window where there's a window. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
Mary, do you have more?
No, I'm just appealing to the committee to, I mean, I am a homeowner who's abided by every single one of the rules. I did everything that committee asked for, everything.
I have a couple of questions of Alan before I call for the vote. Alan, has the committee and through the board approved the installation of new windows in the association?
Yes.
Under what circumstances?
Primarily, they are in the 22 and 2300 model homes. Those are the patio homes. There is, as you know, the entrance is off of a very large patio, and the building is U-shaped around that patio, and that patio is fenced in so that often, usually it's in the kitchen. People desire on what would be an outside facade wall to put a window in there. However, that window is inside the fenced-in patio and not visible from the common area. So that's
On a
the
blank
reason.
wall, is it on a blank wall?
Oh, yes, it's on a blank wall.
Okay.
Yeah. And so several of those have been done. And I think at least twice in, I think the large loft model, permission's been given for people to put a small rectangular window in the second story in a bathroom in the back of a house.
Yeah,
On a
that's
blank
correct.
wall.
On a
I'm
blank
aware.
wall,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that is a blank wall, yeah. Alan, what did you mean by suppressed fenestration? What did you mean? by that?
Thank you for asking about that. It is a rather esoteric term, meaning that part of the design principle is deliberately not putting windows in every wall and leaving some of the walls or some of the parts of the facade of a house to be just empty siding without a window in it. And for example, that's also true of Sea Ranch. I think if you were to look, a lot of those walls do not have windows in them too.
Do you have the new criteria or the criteria for new windows? Does anybody have that?
I reviewed them and met them all. The window's rectangular. The window doesn't intrude on anybody's privacy. The window doesn't have a negative. I hired an architect, a licensed architect, who is familiar with our home designs to answer the question of whether it meets, whether it enhances or not. So I
But it
met,
does not seem to meet the rules of
they're right there.
Nepenthe.
It is the rules in Nepenthe. So here they are. It doesn't invade the privacy. It's rectangular. It's going to match in detail and design when it's installed. That's what Ken reviewed. I met the criteria.
So you have a very capable chair of the ARC, and yet you still had multiple members of ARC not approving the windows. So
yes, and that's my appeal, is that they are
well,
not
the decision was
following
made at
the
this point.
guidance.
I understand personally, but at this point, it seems the decision has been made by ARC not to recommend it.
Well, that was their opinion, and what I'm trying to do is enlighten the board members that they ignored that I met the guidance. If a homeowner meets the guidance, it should be approved.
All right, before I call for the vote, it's almost 9 o'clock. Any other input from board members? All right, we have a motion before us from Marcus, seconded by Linda, to approve the denial. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Betsy, call the roll.
Baker,
Nay.
to not deny. I'm sorry. I think we need clarity on, I'm not clear on the motion.
Motion
What
was.
I wrote down was Marcus moved to deny the application. So I think it needs to be restated or something, because that's what I have. So if that's the case, if the motion is to deny, you are saying no, it should be approved. Is that what you're saying, John?
That is correct.
A nay vote is to approve the application. Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, Tangeris,
She's
Oh,
muted.
you're muted. You're muted.
Nay, I think we should
Nay.
approve the application.
Okay. And Dasher,
I stick with my original motion.
and Cook.
I think the application should be denied.
Okay.
So we're split. So can we let Mary vote then?
You cannot let Mary
Okay.
vote.
So what do we do with the split?
The split means the denial. I guess it means that the denial doesn't go through.
The motion does not carry,
Yeah.
in which case I mean, the problem is that the committee is not the final say, and you have a motion that doesn't carry. So
Ellen, are there any other design recommendations that your committee would be open to? Like, for example, maybe, I don't know if Mary would be okay with this, but to me, it would maybe be,
Wait a minute, hold
maybe
on.
one.
Wait. It's been approved.
no, I don't think so. I think that the recommendation to deny is still a recommendation to deny with no final.
Maybe we should call that attorney.
I'm almost wondering. Yeah, I feel like I've got to like open up the bylaws and the CCNRs right now to get clarity on this. But at this moment, the motion cannot carry because it's a tie vote.
Oh.
So the application
toss.
to move forward, her application to put the windows in at this point is not approved. So we probably do need to consult with legal
So
counsel.
isn't this the same situation that we had when we voted for the Ellwangers?
No, because Mary has made an application as a homeowner for an architectural approval. And I believe she is due an answer from the association,
I see, okay.
either a definitive yes or no. And the getting there seems to be the difficult part.
Would the committee be open to suggesting, are there any other potential design solutions that your committee thinks would be in keeping? I mean, are we completely hell bent on that blank wall? Or are there any other design solutions, Mary, that might be considered?
Why don't I confer with the chairman? And we'll see if there are any. Why don't we leave it at that?
Yeah, and
To
that's,
discuss whether there's another solution.
Right.
yeah,
I'll
that's-
confer with Ken. He's the chairperson.
I personally would like to see, if we can't make a decision as a board and it's split, I wish that we could have our homeowners vote. I don't know if that's an option.
No,
Oh, no.
the board is empowered
not an
to
option.
do certain things, and that does not include the
That is not
homeowners.
an option.
All right.
Sorry.
All right,
idea.
what I'm hearing here is, Mary, you have offered to meet with the committee chair again to see if some resolution can come from this.
I have.
Betsy, at the same time, would you check with our attorney?
Yeah,
What we have here is a motion to approve the denial. And that motion did not pass. It tied
Right.
2-2. It didn't-
Right.
It didn't approve the project, nor did it approve the denial. I'm
Right.
not sure where to go with this.
right. I mean, yeah, I think it would be a wise idea to have counsel weigh in. He'll go through the CCNRs and find the pertinent pieces and then explain why he's making that recommendation to the board.
All right. Okay, let's do that. So we've got two things to do. Mary, you agreed to talk to the committee chair again to see if there's some other solution. And we will then query our attorney on what the results of our vote tonight was. Okay,
Okay.
all right. So the motion to, okay, denial failed 2-2.
Okay, all right. Okay, it's 9:02. We have a second homeowners forum. Does anyone care to speak? before we
Who's
adjourn?
left?
Well, there's some folks
Well,
left.
there's a few people, diehards.
I will,
HOA junkies.
yeah, I will give you 30 seconds to raise your hand.
Oh, Peter Lewicki has raised his hand.
Peter?
He's on mute.
Oh, Peter, you're muted.
I'm muted. I just want to thank everyone for all their work on everything that we've discussed tonight. I have not attended a full board meeting in a long time, and I'm impressed with the amount of civility, even though there've been some contentious topics. No, seriously, that's a testament to everybody on this call. So anyway, there's lots of good things that are going on here, and I look forward to being part of it.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, are we ready to adjourn?
Yeah.
Meeting is adjourned.
Amen. And
All right,
pass the
bye.
invitation. Good night, everybody.
Good night.